Ladies and gentlemen, it is November 6th, Thursday, November 6th, 2025. And here's what's coming up on the Owen Report today. I have a huge stack of economic news today. And the administration specifically has a messaging problem when it comes to the economy. And I'm going to explain why. And I'm going to show you the actual numbers, everything that's in the news today that is affecting the average American person. This is what's affecting the average American person. Not the shutdown. Now, the shutdown is about to get a lot more real for a lot more people, but it can go away. These numbers are what the American people have been dealing with for a long time. It's worse than ever. And this is what the American people care about. This is what's affecting their bottom line more than any shutdown. But nobody's talking about it. Everybody talks shutdown. Nobody talks real economy. Well, we will today. We will today. And it's going to cover all different sectors. And then we may get into what's going on with the stock market right now and how this is all going to impact the stock market. And we're anticipating the decision from the Supreme Court tomorrow on Trump's tariffs, if he'll even be able to do it. So I got some sound from Amy Coney Barrett today, and then we're going to be joined by attorney Bob Barnes to talk about the Supreme Court decision, what he anticipates is going to happen in the Supreme Court, and then what's going to happen with the markets after that. So we got all of that. Huge stack. That's going to be a major part of the show. We're going to re-examine the election from Tuesday, at least some aspects of it. It's not going to be too heavy. But we got a couple aspects from Tuesday night's election results that we are going to analyze here. And to me, there's two developments that we're looking at. And it's the old story of, are our elections rigged, which we've been through before. We can kind of understand that. And then there's the other story, which is who's responding to these election results in the right way. Who's getting it and who's not? And then why is that playing out? Because it happens to be on the same dividing line of so many other issues. So you're kind of seeing this rift now that we've seen before. We do have some geopolitical news. Seems impossible to avoid these days. So we do have some geopolitical news, some interesting stuff that you probably haven't seen before. And then how this issue on foreign policy is affecting Republican Party politics, and it's not going away anytime soon. It's not going away anytime soon. Now, if we have time, I anticipate this is probably going to take most of the show. But if we have time, I really want to get into this healthcare news. And I can just state it simply that the average American has just seen their healthcare costs go up 200%, 300%. I mean, we're talking dramatic here. We're talking your whole budget just got changed type of numbers. So I'm hoping I can get into that, but I don't know if we're going to have the time. Very loaded show today. And, we're going to also, I don't think we'll do this today, but I'm noticing there's a debate on 9/11 once again. And it's like, okay, either you believe in the official narrative or you don't. And then so much of your political ideology and your political worldview, that fork in the road determines where it goes. So it's kind of an important issue. So we'll talk about all of that and more on today's Owen Report.
This news update was brought to you by the 1776 Law Center, the official legal team of the Owen Report.
Folks, I want to tell you about my friends at mypatriotsupply.com. And I'm going to urge you to get prepared with my friends at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen. And ever since COVID, millions of Americans have started buying preparedness supplies, especially emergency food, which is a good thing. But there's a big mistake most people make with their emergency food supply. They don't have any way to cook it in a real emergency when the power is out or the grid is down. That's why our friends over at My Patriot Supply created their Black Friday Survival Special. It comes with a 4-week food supply plus $150 worth of free gifts, including everything you need to prepare your emergency meals, like a cook stove, fuel, fire starters, plus a water purifier, bug out bag, and more. It's the complete survival kit your family needs to ride out natural disasters, civil unrest, or anything worse. It's also a great Christmas gift. Now's the time to do the shopping. So go over to my friends at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen. With all the uncertainty in the world right now, we simply can't afford to be unprepared. So prepare yourself at mypatriotsupply.com/Owen with this limited time Black Friday special.
On the cutting edge of news and analysis, the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be looking at the real economic numbers here that nobody else is really talking about, nobody else is really covering. Now, you can go out and find it. These are all easily available numbers for anybody that wants to look at it. These numbers are coming from a myriad of sources, whether you trust government sources or independent sources, or maybe the best source, your own experience, your own real world experience, your own experience with the grocery stores and the costs and the energy costs and the price at the pump and insurance and everything else. And this is why there's such a disconnect specifically on the economy. And this is maybe the number one issue when it comes to elections. Such a disconnect between this administration and Americans. When Trump talks about how great the economy is, and when Trump talks about the golden age of the economy that we're in, it's just simply not true for the average American. Now, it might be true for his friends, it might be true for his donors, but it's not true for the average American. It's simply not. And the numbers bear it out. In a real ugly and nasty way, actually, in a very revealing, ugly and nasty way. But this is what the average American is experiencing. And so you're gaslighting them when you say how great things are, when they're just simply not, and all of the numbers prove it. Now, before I get into this very large stack of economic news, I've remained consistent on this, and I still believe this. This is the one area where I'm willing to give Trump the benefit of the doubt. This is the one area where if I have faith in Donald Trump that he has a vision for the economy and he can do what needs to do to reach that vision, and it will be good for America, this is that one area where I'm willing to, let's say, put faith in President Trump. Let's put it that way. I don't like using that word in politics, but let's just put it like that. The foreign policy stuff, the foreign aid stuff, seems like that's already set in stone. We're not getting true conservatism there. We're getting military-industrial complex. We're getting establishment swamp policy there. I don't think that's changing. I don't think we can avoid the AI surveillance state grid that's being built. I think that's a done deal. Now, how that impacts the economy, I suppose, is yet to be seen. But on just trade and negotiations and with the tariffs and the manufacturing and everything and the deals that Trump is working out, that's the one area where, even though it's bad, I'm willing to say I think Trump can fix this because we've seen him do it before. But that doesn't change the reality that the economy right now is bad, very bad. And saying it's not is doing harm to your approval ratings, whether you care about those or not. It's doing harm to the morale of this movement. It's doing harm to the credibility of this administration. And it's spitting in the face of the average American that knows it's not true. Now, let's look at these actual numbers. Shocking and horrifying, you might say, but undeniable. U.S. household debt hits record $18.6 trillion as student loan defaults explode. This is from the New York Fed, publishing its quarterly report on household debt and credit, and we'll get more specific into these arenas. Surprising exactly no one, the report showed that household debt increased by $197 billion, 1% in a single quarter, quarter three of 2025, to a new record high of $18.59 trillion, split between $13.5 trillion in housing debt and $5.1 trillion in non-housing debt. Most of that being credit card debt, but we'll have that coming up in a second. Now, here's some of the more gruesome details. And again, we're going to be honing in on some of these sectors specifically. Mortgage balances grew by $137 billion in the third quarter and totaled $13.07 trillion at the end of September 2025. Mortgage delinquency rates rose 0.83% from 0.82% prior quarter. Now, that's not as bad, but the delinquency rates were already at a record high, so it's already as worse as it's ever been. But as far as the mortgage balances, this is where it's bad. And you had an inflated housing market. Now you have inflated interest rates. And with the cost of living going up, but no incomes going up, this is obviously where you're running into problems. And this is where you're getting your delinquencies. This is where you're getting your debt. Credit card balances rose by $24 billion from the previous quarter and stood at $1.23 trillion. Delinquency rate at 12.4%, highest since 2011. Auto loan balances held steady at $1.6 trillion. Home equity line of credit balances rose by $11 billion to $422 billion. Student loan balances rose by $15 billion and stood at $1.65 trillion. All right, so we're just throwing numbers at you here. Let's zoom in on some of these. Credit card debt reaches $1.2 trillion, in line with last year's all-time high, New York Fed finds. Collectively, Americans owe $1.2 trillion on their credit cards, according to a new report from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. A separate report by Equifax found that many consumers are continuing to spend despite elevated prices and high borrowing costs. Now, you have to look at this, and there's a couple questions you ask. I think to me, the loudest message that you're hearing from this is Americans are in an unaffordability crisis, and so they're going into credit card debt. Now, I don't think you can make that as a universal statement, because there are people that are very irresponsible financially. But I don't think that's the big issue here. I think that's part of the issue. I don't think that's the big issue. To me, when you look at the credit card debt, what you have is people that would normally pay for groceries, pay for dinner, whatever some smaller costs are, Now they're putting these on credit cards when normally they would just be putting them on their debit card. Or if you really want to go back in time, this old thing we used to call cash. So now they're putting all of this stuff on credit cards because they don't have the cash. They don't have the money. So that's a sign of a very bad economy. Okay? And what ends up happening, so they can't afford the grocery bill, they can't afford the dinner, whatever. You may see now, if you like to shop online, you can order a $30 pizza and get it in installments. You can pay for a $30 pizza in installments. That's a sign of a bad economy. You can go shop online. A lot of these online storefronts now will do a similar thing. You buy a product, $40, $50. They'll let you pay it in 4 installments for a $40, $50 purchase. That's a sign of the bad economy. Or they put it on the credit card. So then what do you have? So you have people in an unaffordability crisis. Then they put purchases on a credit card that they then can't afford to pay off their credit card debt. This is the sign of a bad economy. Now, again, I do think there are people that make bad financial decisions. And you can go a number of different directions with that conversation. It's like, well, what do you expect people to do? Or how do you expect people to know? Fair conversations. Fair conversations. I'm not here to have that conversation today. I'm just looking at these numbers and I'm saying it's not a good economy. Stop telling us it's a good economy. In fact, these numbers show this is like red alert levels. This is like red alert. The economy is in such a bad place. Now, again, I think between Lutnick and Vaught and Bessent and Trump, maybe they can do something about this. And Pulte in the housing market, maybe they can. I don't know if you can get a better team. Maybe they can. And look, I even understand why Trump does it. I even understand why Trump comes out and says it's so good, because it's just how he is. He just believes you just always say the positive thing. Just say the positive thing. Keep morale high. Say it's good. Just say it's good. It's just a messaging strategy. It's a messaging tactic for him. But it's different now. Now, for Trump, he doesn't care. He doesn't have to win another election. So he can get away with this stuff. But the administration is losing credibility. And now the Republicans are having to repeat this talking point about the economy. Nobody's believing it, so people aren't going to vote Republican. Meanwhile, they go out, they listen to some communist, and he's talking about how bad the economy is. And they agree, because it's true. Let's continue. America's credit card debt reaches new record high. Let's start pile driving here. Biden's record debt forgiveness barely made a dent in the $1.7 trillion student loan crisis. Here's why. Well, they couldn't even really do it. They got some of it through, but they couldn't even cancel the student debt like they wanted to, or forgive the student debt like they wanted to. You know, this is a weird issue, because there's multiple issues that are built into this issue, like the price of college and the predatory student loan process. So this one is a little more, you kind of got to look at some different angles with this one. And now a lot of people are just deciding they're not even going to go to college because it's just not worth it. So you wonder if that's eventually going to balance itself out as far as the price is concerned. But it's not going to get rid of $1.7 trillion in student debt. A record high. Office of the Commercial Mortgage-Backed Securities delinquency rate hits record 11.8%. Much worse than financial crisis. Multifamily delinquencies soared to 7.1%. Commercial real estate loans on office and multifamily properties got further bludgeoned in October. The delinquency rate of office mortgages that have been scrutinized into commercial mortgage-backed securities spiked to 11.8% in October, the worst ever, and over a percentage point higher than the peak of the financial crisis meltdown. And you can see where we're at on these graphs here. And this one is even worse because you got other entities here that have debt on these commercial buildings. So they have debt on the commercial buildings that they can't pay off because nobody is renting the commercial buildings because either they can't afford it or people just work from home now. So that's a big bubble. Student debt. It's actually, that story I read was from a couple months ago. The new number is actually 1.8 trillion. So at 1.7 trillion, it was a record. But it's already over at 1.8. Warning sign, 1.7 million vehicles were repossessed last year. Debt assistance organizations are seeing more and more calls for their help. Delinquents on student loans, delinquents on credit card bills, delinquents on mortgage payments, delinquents on auto loan payments. Sounds like a bad economy. Sounds like Americans are struggling. And then you keep telling them how good it is. That's insulting to them. That's insulting to them. Auto loan delinquencies are soaring with consumers hit by high car prices. Auto delinquencies are up more than 50% since 2010, Vintage Score says. You know, I wonder about the price of the cars. To me, I don't think that that's the issue here. Because the price of the market's going to react to what people are paying. And if you're like me, you're just kind of like a market hawk. You like to follow the real estate markets. You like to follow the car markets. Maybe you're buying, maybe you're not. Maybe you like to do it with ticket prices if you're into that. Call you a ticket hawk. So I don't really see it as the price issue. I mean, you can get a car mostly that you're happy with. It's the interest rates on the loans that I see as the problem. But I don't want to wade too much into that because I want to stick on the actual economic news here. But that is kind of an interesting one-off of that conversation. U.S. household debt up modestly in third quarter, New York Fed says. So it continues to go up, the household debt. We just covered that, record highs. Household debt hits record $18.6 trillion as delinquencies remain elevated. Young borrowers are struggling the most. Now, this is where you could say this is what's showing a sign of, let's say, bad financial decisions. And there's no doubt that this stuff goes on. But here you talk about the younger borrowers. Household debt, younger borrowers. Well, what are you talking about? You're talking about student debt. You're talking about a student loan that they were pressured into signing on to. You're talking about a student loan for an 18-year-old, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they've probably never made a purchase over $1,000 in their life. So to me, this is a larger issue. I think it's very predatory on young people, and I think there is a legitimate defense for them to say, well, I was told I needed to go to college. I thought it would be a good investment. Or I'm trying to get into the asset column. I want to own a home. Now you start talking about entertainment and things that aren't necessary. Okay, maybe that is leading to the credit card debt. But so what are we going to start telling young people? If you can't afford college, don't go? Is that the message then? Okay. You'll just never be able to afford it then. You're never going to college. You can't afford it. Are you going to tell young people, sorry, the housing market just isn't for you? Maybe try in your 30s, maybe try in your 40s? Is that the message then? It's kind of demoralizing. And yet, that would be the message, given these results. U.S. home value growth is entering recessionary territory. Now, you can just look at this graph that we have on the screen here, and you can see for yourself what he's talking about. And so you had the value of the house go all the way up here. This is when it was probably overly inflated. And you actually want to know what caused this? You want to know what actually caused this right here, folks? I will guarantee you this is mostly Texas and Florida, and maybe like a Montana or an Idaho. But basically everywhere the liberals are fleeing. So here's what happened. Because notice this is right here at 2020. And I know for a fact this happened in Texas. When the COVID tyranny got to such an extreme degree in these Democrat-run states and these Democrat-run cities, specifically California and New York, where they already had an inflated housing market, where their houses were already unaffordable, they were basically able to turn their inflated equity into Texas and into Florida, and that's what drove these prices up. That's what drove this up right here in 2020. All the inflated house value from New York and California, they moved to Florida and Texas, took their equity there, and basically caused those markets to inflate. So that's what this is. And then this is it coming back down to earth, basically right here. And now it's just fighting to survive off of all the decisions that were made in these last 10 years right here. But I can tell you from somebody that just follows the real estate market kind of out of hobby, but also out of, I think, necessity to stay informed on these things. And I've been trying to move in Austin. It's virtually impossible right now. Like I said, unless you want to make a bad financial decision. So you have to weigh the decision. I could move. I could buy a house and I could move. I could do it tomorrow. And it would be a horrendous financial decision for me to do that. So I'm not going to do it. Somebody else might. And then they end up delinquent. And then they're part of these statistics. So I get it. And they might have to move. This is Austin specifically. Median number of days it takes a home to sell in most populous U.S. cities. And it's number one here in Austin by far. 88 days in the market. So now you're trying to sell your house. You had an inflated payment. You had a high mortgage rate on your high interest rate on your mortgage. You list your house at just what you paid for it. It's sitting on the market. You drop it $20,000. It's sitting on the market. You drop it $40,000. Somebody picks up the phone and asks and says they're interested. And now you might not want to sell because you're taking a huge hit. So that's the state of it right here in Austin. I can even tell you from experience. What do you think about this one? McDonald's is struggling to hold on to its low-income customers. The company said there's been a double-digit decline in traffic across the industry from lower-earning customers. So now poor people, lower-class people can't even afford McDonald's. All right? So McDonald's is for the middle class now. McDonald's. And look, I'm not judging. There's no judgment here. I think it's kind of like, who's eating at McDonald's. Maybe everybody's been there. Maybe it wasn't McDonald's. Maybe it was somewhere else where you could go buy a burger for $1. for me, that lifestyle was probably necessary for a couple of years when I was in college. That might be all you and your friends can afford. So you go to the fast food place, whatever it is, and you buy a couple cheeseburgers for $5. And maybe that's the case for some families. If the economy is so bad that McDonald's has to raise its prices to such a degree that now low-income people can't afford to go eat at McDonald's, I'd say that's a bad sign. Job cuts in October hit highest level for the first month in 22 years. They're cutting jobs. They're cutting jobs, and this is only going to get worse as AI takes over. It's only going to get worse. And we are not even anywhere near where we're going to be with AI. Now, I've been working in media for so long that I can't sit here and tell you how it's going to impact other industries. And I'm sure media will kind of be one of the last places where the human element is inherently needed. But I don't know, maybe an AI person, an AI system can just pretend to be a broadcaster, pretend to be a talk show host. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they can replace even me. But eventually, I'll tell you, in this industry, they'll have AI that basically replaces the role of your editors, the role of your producers, if you want it that way. Absolutely. They've already tried. They already have some things, but it's not very effective. It's not very good. But if you're in manufacturing, if you're in shipping, production, consumer goods, that's where AI is really taking over. Maybe farming soon. I would say probably the financial sector as well. I don't think this number goes anywhere but down. Or I guess you would say up if you're talking about job cuts. Highest level in 22 years, job cuts. Job cuts for October totaled 153,000, a 183% surge from September, and a 175% surge higher than the same month a year ago. It was the highest level for any October since 2003 and has been the worst year for layoffs since 2009. Companies in the tech sector announced over 33,000 job cuts, nearly 6 times the level in September. Tech heavy. That's where the AI is taking over. So less and less jobs, more and more debt. Not a good combination. And more energy consumption, by the way, which is only going to cause energy bills to go up. And where are all of these people going? Well, they're going into the gig economy. They're going into the service economy, which used to mostly be reserved for younger people, which used to mostly be reserved as transitional work. Now it's what people rely on. Now it's what people need. And it doesn't deliver what they need, and they can't rely on it. Layoffs in October hit highest level for month in 2020 years as companies cite cost cutting and AI. Well, companies are cutting costs. Again, another sign, not a good economy. Now, maybe this is some good news ahead of the upcoming holidays. Walmart's Thanksgiving dinner. Is it truly 25% cheaper this year? Here's what we know. U.S. President Donald Trump praised Walmart's 2024 Thanksgiving dinner deal, calling it proof that Republicans manage better prices than Democrats. I think this is supposed to say 2025, unless they're saying it's 25% cheaper than it was in 2024. That subheadline is a little confusing. The Walmart Thanksgiving bundle, President Trump says, the Walmart Thanksgiving bundle is down 25% from the year before. So I don't know. I don't buy the Walmart Thanksgiving dinner, so I don't know. That could be true. Are they out yet? Can you even buy a Walmart Thanksgiving dinner? It might be a little too soon. So I don't know. We'll have to find out. I do find it coincidental, dare I say? Do you believe it's coincidental? As the SNAP benefits run dry, that Walmart is lowering prices? Hey now. Hey now. Yeah. Yeah. How much of these grocery stores were being subsidized by the SNAP benefits? And if you want to know why these guys are really suffering, look at what the government does to these businesses. Look at what the government does to small businesses.
For this taco truck,
A business like Sergio Garcia's
that's my book for license.
needs up to 5 licenses or permits
All this is my license and everything. That's a big book
to sell food legally.
for my
How much
permits.
money per year do you pay to follow the law?
Some more than 50,000.
$50,000 in fees, including taxes and insurance.
And these guys, meanwhile,
So it's nothing, not pay nothing.
It's against state law to sell food without a license. In 1974, King County made it so inspectors can write you a $250 ticket for violating this. I asked the county, how much in fines have they collected? Their answer, none.
If you're not going to cite them, yeah, they'll go home, whatever. They'll come right back, and they do it every time.
They said they have not been able to use fines to deter unpermitted mobile food vendors, adding that they don't tip.
So that's just one example of a larger problem. Too much government intervention, too many taxes, too much regulation, too much burden on businesses that it makes it hard for them to even turn a profit. And then they have to raise their prices, which adds to the unaffordability crisis. And then you have the unaffordability crisis, which leads to the debt crisis. And then the debt crisis leads to recession and collapse. Now, this is all happening. This is all undeniable. Most people probably listening to this have even experienced it to some extent. So you can't say it's not happening. You can't say it's the golden age. If you want to ask for patience, if you want to ask for faith, if you want to sell hope, that's fine. Don't sell us bullcrap. Don't sell us lies. We'll see what the deal is like with that Thanksgiving dinner. Apparently, Trump has already been called out saying it's fake news. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the Walmart Thanksgiving dinner. Anybody can go to Walmart and compare the price from last year to this year, or compare what's inside of the package too, and decide if the price is down or not. Or is this just Trump trying to throw red meat out there in a struggling economy where everybody's starting to kind of scratch their head and say, why do you keep talking about the economy being so great? It's not so great. Now, the big story is about to be tariffs. The big story is about to be tariffs. But I want to get into a quick market thing here in a second. Because there's some interesting stuff going on in the markets right now, to say the least. There's some interesting stuff going on in the markets, and there's some conflicting opinions. So I'll give you my opinion on this. We'll hear from some other pundits with their opinion on this. But anybody paying attention knows it's kind of it's very tense. And there's a trend that's been going on from this White House that's been translating to the market that didn't hit today like it normally does. And I'm wondering if that's not a sign. And this is a trend that I've been following and I've been using, and didn't really hit today. So I don't know. We'll have more on that coming up here in just a second. But it ties into the economic news. And if the stock market collapses, I don't know. I mean, how much of a story does that become? Hey, I want to tell you about our friends at Allegiance Gold. ProtectWithOwen.com to learn about their special right now for this audience. Get up to $5,000 in free metals. Now, precious metals, heavy metals, this has been another major topic in the economy lately. But let me ask you something. Are you the type who waits to be rescued or the one who protects your family before the storm hits? You've already seen the cracks. The dollar buys less every month. Banks are showing stress, and this market is being propped up with printed money. It's not if it breaks, it's how prepared you'll be when it does. Here's what they don't want you to notice. When the system starts cracking, the insiders quietly move first. That's why central banks, major institutions, and billionaires are piling into gold right now. And that's why I've partnered with Allegiance Gold. When paper markets burn or the market falls, gold and silver don't. They're yours. Not the government's, not the banks, not Wall Street's, yours. Allegiance Gold has been around for nearly a decade and is trusted by over 7,000 clients nationwide and growing. Relationship-driven, A+ with the Better Business Bureau, 4.9 stars from real clients, transparent, and they focus on educating you first. Right now, they're offering up to $5,000 in free gold and silver with your qualified investments. Whether through your 401k, IRA, or savings, they'll make it simple to move into something real before the next reset. Call 844-790-9191, 844-790-9191, or go to protectwithowen.com. That's protectwithowen.com. Protect your wealth and your freedom because nobody else will. We thank our friends at Allegiance Gold and protectwithowen.com. So, the stock market. Let me tell you something that didn't happen today. In fact, let me check back on this right now. I could be very depressed. But I don't know, maybe not. We'll see. Let's check. Yeah, it went down. It actually went down. Maybe it'll pump tomorrow. So I don't like talking about stocks as much and betting as much. I'm kind of starting to change my mindset on this, and I might actually lean into it. I just kind of found it like, it's like talking about, you and your wife's intimacy, type of thing. It's like there's a time where you do with friends or something, but it's not something you really broadcast on the air. It's like I don't need you to know about what me and my wife are into. So that's why I don't really talk about betting or my stocks or anything like that, because it's just kind of like you don't need to know what I do in the bedroom. But I'm slowly starting to change. Not about the bedroom thing, although some of you might need to. You might. Just don't go any further on that. But no, I've been thinking about going more into some of the financial stuff, betting, stocks. Now, there's been a play that I've been using. And if you really follow me on X, you might have picked up on this the other day. It's just like, I don't even like talking about it. Just like, again, it's like talking about, your private life here, which I don't like to do. But I mean, I've used certain trends and certain patterns in the markets, in the stock market this year specifically, and I've done extremely well. I've never been in the stock market before this year. I basically decided when the entire mainstream media establishment came out and said that Trump was going to collapse the stock, I made a big bet. And I won big time. And I'll tell you that you see these charts. Like I said, this is kind of dirty, folks, but full transparency, I'll just tell you. It's like I don't even like talking like this, to be honest. It feels so dirty. But it's just the truth. And I posted it the other day. The top earners, they said the top earners were the Pelosi trade tracker and the inverse Kramer. Great strategies to use, by the way. Highly successful, proven successful, much longer than me. I beat both of them. Okay? I beat both of them. It's just true. And one of the trends that I've been using was whatever, you kind of just follow whatever the White House is doing. And quite frankly, I think it's all insider trading. And so it's like once you kind of realize how the insider trading works and how the whales like to move and then ride the waves, you can do pretty well. But you have to be fast. That's the only thing about it. You have to be very fast and you have to be paying very close attention or you miss it. But basically what happens is whenever somebody goes to the White House, a CEO, a company, hell, even an entire industry of people, whenever they go to the White House and they get put in front of the media with President Trump, or President Trump names them by name or their company by name, it's almost been a 100% success rate. If you buy right then, you're going to get a bump. Sometimes it's huge. That's been the name of the game for months. For months. Well, Novo Nordisk was at the White House today, got a shout out from Trump, had the CEO speaking, and they got like a 0.1% bump. And it didn't even move. I have not seen that. I've not seen a CEO and a company get a shout out from Trump at the Oval Office and not get at least a 1% bump. Usually it's like 5 to 10. Like, and if you catch it and you hit that crest and you sell, and if you know who's going to be in the White House that day, and you know if they're going to be getting a shout out from Trump or stepping in front of the podium, oh yeah. Oh yeah. So you learn how to ride these waves. It's like, I know when the wave pool is going to turn on. It's basically what it is. Well, that didn't happen today. Did it happen with Eli Lilly? Now, Eli Lilly is kind of, that stock is so insanely inflated that I don't even know if it's fair to, let's see if Eli Lilly jumped. Eli Lilly got the bump. So Eli Lilly actually got a nice bump. Novodisc did not. So I guess maybe it might still apply. But here's my real point. The markets are extremely tense and volatile right now. You have this giant AI bubble. You have all of the money moving out of consumer goods and moving into AI. And it's a little more dynamic than that, but that's the most simply way to put it. Consumer goods and some of the old horse stocks, people are moving their money out of that. They're moving it into tech. They're moving it into AI. And so now there's this big fear that it's all about to collapse. And people are theorizing that Altman knows this is coming. Some people think that Karp knows this is coming. Some people are watching plays against Palantir. They're watching plays against OpenAI. And so there's this huge growth in the market. And now there's some uncertainty. And I'm wondering if what happens with the tariffs will kind of be the moment that breaks. It's like, okay, are we sure about this? Are we gonna keep going up? Or now are we very unsure and we're gonna pull out? Because if the latter happens, what you're gonna see is you'll have the big money investors, you'll have the whales, they'll pull out. Now they create the waves, so they can pull out whenever they want and then buy low again. And this is what they do. And if you follow their movements, then you ride the waves, you do fine. But if the whole attitude changes, the whales are going to pull out, and then the panic sellers are going to pull out, and then you could have a serious collapse. And a lot of people are afraid of this right now. But it's been such a high, it's been such a growth pattern now that everybody's still kind of riding the high. They don't want it to end. They don't want the party to end quite yet. Now, here's Ben Shapiro on CNN. He was asked about this. And this is different than politics in my eyes. To me, economics and finance is different than politics. Now, the two worlds are obviously, they're connected, but it's different. It's different. Like when I hear, Shapiro talking about foreign policy, I'm just like, yeah, I just completely disagree. And there's no changing my mind. But on the markets, I'm not as let's say steadfast. But here's what Shapiro said with Bakari Sellers, name irony not intended. Bakari Sellers here on CNN.
Fascinating is if the court does strike it down, watch the stock market absolutely explode. Seriously, you'll watch the S&P 500 jump like nobody's business, and the president is then going to be in the awkward position of having to explain why the markets are boosted by the rejection of his key
The
policies.
best example of that is going to be our American automakers. I mean, you're going to see their stock just explode. You're going to see those people who are doing that type of work, for example, who are building cars from Canada, United States, and Mexico working together. Their stock, to your point, their stock's going to go through the roof.
Be fascinating is if
So on the Shapiro take here, I disagree. I think if the tariffs, if the Supreme Court rejects Trump's tariffs, that I think the market collapses, actually. I'm of the opposite stance. I think it collapses. And I think the proof is that, part of the deal making right now with Trump is he's promising these companies that the returns are going to inevitably happen. And there's going to be long-term returns when they bring manufacturing and production and rare earths and everything back into America. So to me, he's kind of getting everybody to buy into this right now. And their safety blanket, their safety net is, hey, our stocks are up. So, okay, we're making a bet on whether Trump's economic vision, whether Trump's economic plan is going to work. We're making a bet. We're reinvesting in America, and there's a long-term vision here. But our safety blanket is the markets are booming. So if things don't work out the way Trump is intending them, we can just sell. And our stock prices are so inflated that we kind of get our return right there and we draw even. So they're basically hedging the bets. So Trump is basically hedging all of these big tech companies that Trump is cutting deals with, the investments, the production, all of it. Trump is allowing them, he's helping them to hedge their bets by this massive stock market growth. So that even if the plan fails, let's say Trump's tariffs gets rejected at the Supreme Court, then they can sell their stocks at the highest level ever, and they can keep that return on investment unsure of what's going to happen with the U.S. economy. So I think the exact opposite of Shapiro, but time will tell, and we might find out this Friday. But no, I think if the Supreme Court rejects Trump's tariffs, I think the market goes down. I think it's the exact opposite. Because I just don't see how it goes the other way. But we'll see. But as far as sellers, Bakari sellers here, this is a man that obviously has no idea what he's talking about. And that's what I'm saying. These old horse stocks, like a GM or a Ford, which, maybe you can play with a little bit, they're not big. They're small. In fact, they're very affordable. You can go buy 100 shares in one of these major car manufacturing companies right now, and you could probably afford it. Maybe more so than a McDonald's breakfast. I'm joking. That's not where the money is. The money is in tech. The money is in AI. So I don't know what he's talking about. Nobody's going back to these old horse stock plays. Nobody. Unless you want to do some quick pump and dumps on $10, $20 stocks and just try to make a quick play on a day trade. Nobody's long-terming Toyota or Ford or GM. Maybe Toyota because they have a much more dynamic product base. So I don't think Sellers knows what he's talking about. Now Shapiro he sees what I'm seeing. He just thinks it's going to go the opposite direction. But time will tell. Now the whole AI thing, this is a whole nother conversation. I'm gonna take a pause on that for now because I want to bring on Robert Barnes here, the founder of the 1776 Law Center, the official legal team of the Owen Report. But I want to talk to him about the Supreme Court decision coming up tomorrow, and then what he thinks is going to happen. Now, there's already some indicators. I would say if you're following this case, there's already indicators that it doesn't look like they're going to favor Trump. It doesn't look like the Supreme Court is going to decide in Trump's favor, I would say. And I suppose there could be I suppose there could be something that sways tomorrow, but I'd say right now it's not looking good. So I'm gonna get Bob Barnes connected here, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna get Robert Barnes connected, and I'll play what I'll play at least one clip. If he has anything else, I'll try to find it. But I'm going to play something that Amy Coney Barrett said that I think is indicative of two things in this Supreme Court decision that are not good. Not good. The two things that Amy Coney Barrett said in court yesterday, extremely concerning on multiple different fronts. Extremely concerning. So, Bob Barnes, the Supreme Court, the markets, coming up here shortly on the Owen Report.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
There he is.
Ladies and gentlemen, your new home for political play-by-play, the Owen Report.
And we're now joined by founder of the 1776 Law Center, Bob Barnes, the official legal team of the Owen Report. And, you know, Bob, there's probably some things we could talk about in the legal world, but we'll put that aside. We'll put that aside for today's conversation, because I saw that you were covering the Supreme Court case. We're anticipating a decision tomorrow. I think there are some indicators of where we think this might go. I do have a clip from Amy Coney Barrett yesterday I want to play for you, but I want to talk about where you think this is going in the Supreme Court, and then how you think the markets are going to respond to this. I kind of offered my opinion on the other side. I don't know if you heard it or not. I can re-inject that in response to you. But where do you see the Supreme Court decision going tomorrow? We are anticipating a decision. And then what do you think the response from the markets will be, Bob Barnes?
I'd be surprised if we get a decision real quick due to the complexity of some of the issues implicated. So I wouldn't anticipate a decision until probably 3 to 4 months from now.
Wow.
So
you are a lone wolf in that, sir.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, I get people think it's like impending. But the thing is, the court doesn't want to require the mass refunds. So but they're not going to affirm Trump's tariffs. So that's cooked. I see almost no chance of that. They're going to say that Trump's tariffs exceeded his power, that it exceeded the power Congress gave him, that it's an Article 1 power to do tariffs, not Article 2 power, that it's a major questions doctrine. They'll take that Chevron case with that reverse Chevron and say this also is excessive to the president. The three liberals all are, don't like Trump anyway, but they were very skeptical in their questioning. So,
well, I don't think it's only the liberal judges. I think some of the conservative judges aren't big fans of Trump either.
Well, and even the ones that are don't like this doctrine. So I think don't be surprised if you see a 9-0 ruling against Trump.
I wouldn't be surprised.
There wasn't really a single favorable judicial question outside of one by Justice Thomas that didn't have a problem saying that delegation was within the president's power. That, there's multiple levels. One is, did this statute the emergency statute provide congressional authority to delegate tariff decision-making to the president? And one is that a major question that Congress has to answer? Second is it something that is subject to being delegated in the first place? And then third, even if both of those first two are met, did they in fact intend tariffs to be a particular tool to be used here? Because the word tariffs is nowhere in the statute. So they're going to lose on, Trump's going to lose on at least two of the three. So either way, these tariffs are done. Now, you'll expect that what the courts are nervous about is ordering about $1 trillion in refunds. So they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So watch for them to do something like this could be salvaged by Congress ratifying it within 3 months, something like that. They'll try to weasel their way out of ordering refunds en masse. The refunds wouldn't happen immediately. Yet it goes to this huge, cumbersome administrative bureaucratic process. So Trump could buy a couple of years, frankly, before the government's got to write any checks. So it's not like a huge bill suddenly due, but it's going to gut Trump's ability to do tariffs going forward.
Yeah.
He can do specific ones under specific statutes to protect specific industries in specific instances. But the broad scale power is going to be gone. And this is all, in my opinion, what killed it. He could have gained judicial credibility if he'd limited the tariff authority to specific instances that show dramatic areas of impact. For example, like auto industry. Go through all the factual findings of the problems of how it's negatively and adversely impacted all the cheap imports coming in the auto industry. Do specific tariffs to the auto industry, to those, and do it across the board. Don't specify any country, because all you can do. That's the reason why we tariffed Penguin Island. These days, you can just transship through anywhere.
I hope people know that reference.
Yeah, we did. It was literally an island. It just says penguins on it. But the reason he tariffed it is because
penguin, man, they need to pay their fair share.
Yeah, exactly. A little walking, talking. And I'm not referring to Gerald Nadler. That's Reverend Reverend McGee. So you look at a lot of these folks or a lot of these policies. Had he instituted it broadly, had he more constricted and directed it, had it stayed just an economic policy. The problem was he got so happy with the power of a tariff that he just started applying it willy-nilly. I don't like the TV ad you ran. 10% tariffs, Canada. I don't like Silva. I don't like that statement you made recently. 50% tariffs. And when he started doing tariffs for Ukraine, 50% tariffs on India because of Ukraine to support Zelensky, the ship had sailed. And he was telling the courts, he just thinks he will go completely mad with this power. So now the courts are going to be like, we're not going to let you have this power, period, unless Congress explicitly gives it to you. And that's very unlikely. The Senate has twice voted, nominally, because it doesn't matter, but they've said they oppose the tariff.
But isn't it also selective? It's like, oh, we're going to make congressional approval. Like, oh, you need congressional approval for this, but it's just like they get to decide when you need it and when you don't. Now, I do want to ask you your legal opinion on whether you think the president should have these powers or not, because I see what Trump is doing, and this is just somebody that studies Trump and understands. Like, I know why he does it, right? This is a negotiating tactic. It's a leverage tactic. It's a bomb throwing tactic. Like, it's a tactic that he uses. He wants to keep people off balance. So there's a reason why he does that. Now, but before I ask you if you think that in your opinion, if you think that the president should have this ability or not, the argument that he's trying to make is that we're in an economic emergency, and he has to do this because we're in an economic emergency. So I don't see, I guess, I don't see how the Supreme Court can deny that, right? So it's like this weird thing where I think it's a smart strategy for the public, for the president to say, hey, we're in an economic emergency. Look at the trade deficit. I have to do this. I have to do this for the economy. You have to give me these powers. This is my negotiating tactic. Like, if you don't allow me this negotiating tactic, you just took away half my deck of cards. So do you think that was a smart strategy? And do you think that, I say it's completely true. Now, whether the Supreme Court declares that he can have the powers or not is a different story. But to me, it's true. We are in an economic emergency. And this is why Trump is leveraging this tactic to try to fix the trade deficit.
Well, I look at it as a sort of threefold analysis: constitutional analysis, policy analysis, political analysis. From a policy perspective, I agree. I have long been a champion of industrial policy, the Alexander Hamilton American economic model, which is that you protect America's markets so that, right now what we have done is, for all the people that oppose illegal immigration, but then oppose tariffs, all you're doing is saying, oh, just ship the job overseas instead of bringing the illegal here. I don't see that as improving. Bernie Sanders used to understand that. Bernie Sanders used to call illegal immigration a Koch family conspiracy of big corporations to drive down U.S. wages.
A Koch family conspiracy against the American people.
But before the whole, it's the big vulnerability, the Achilles heel of the left populist movement, or in the entire Western world, is illegal immigration. They just won't embrace. They used to have a word for it in unions. They called them scabs. Right? Remember that? Scab workers. That's what these illegals are. This isn't a very Jimmy Hoffa
you can't say that anymore. Well, maybe you can now. I don't know. It's
I know. It's unbelievable. That was the old days. I remember asking a buddy of mine, his father is from Puerto Rican from New York City, old school union guy. And he was telling me about some labor problems. I was like, how did you solve that one? And he goes, well, Bobby, that's what bats are for. So I was like, that was old school labor union work. That's what they would do for illegals trying to steal their jobs. And that's what
hey, how much do window repairs cost around here, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So policy-wise, Kevin Phillips long advanced this, wrote a book called Industrial Policy in the 1980s, great populist, conservative analyst and political predictor and prognosticator. So I've long supported Trump's position that we need to leverage access to the U.S. consumer market and the U.S. capital markets to be able to improve American workers' conditions and well-being, particularly in and we need to reindustrialize anyway. We can't build weapons at scale because it takes us 7 years to build something that it takes the Russians 7 months to build because of the military-industrial complex. Yeah, and we're deindustrialized. That's why Europe talks big about how they're like that little dog yipping before the big dog, and then the door opens and the little dog starts looking around. That's Europe. They can't match Russia's military building spree because they're
still trying to figure out how to survive without Russian oil.
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, they're deindustrializing. Rather than reindustrializing, they're deindustrializing. The reason why America could scale up so fast in World War II, to the shock of the Germans, who predicted we couldn't do it, is we had a huge industrial base. So we could just turn those factories on from one thing to the next, from cars to tanks, with ease. We don't have that anymore. So it's a national security problem that we have deindustrialized. It's a cultural problem that we've deindustrialized. So why young working class men have nothing to look forward to except stay at home, play games, date some AI chick online, and complain, and that's how they end up seeking out the Nick Fuentes of the world. Is because of their anger and frustration and agitation and exclusion from American culture and society. The labor participation rate has been declining since 2008. I mean, even Trump didn't reverse that in his first term. He made some improvements.
Did you see the job cut numbers today?
Oh, it's horrible. Oh, but don't worry. All the cat turds of the world tell me the economy is great. God. Prices are down. Did you know that?
I don't want the littermates around here. Please keep the littermates out of the combo today. I don't want them in the chat. All right? There's enough shit around here.
No kidding. And what is Trump doing? So you're going to do a Gatsby party at Mar-a-Lago. You're going to redo the ballroom while you're cutting off SNAP and EBT. And I get the issues with it, but there's a bunch of normies that people don't understand. 1 in 8 Americans relies on that. Why? Because food costs are through the roof. Because they're still through the roof. Because housing costs are through the roof. Nobody can buy even a used car except something that doesn't work and it's 15 years old. I mean, that's how bad things are. Subprime lending in the car auto industry collapsing. Wages are not. Trump's out there saying factories are humming. No, manufacturing is down in the first 6 months.
And by the way, that's an easy thing to market, right? That's a really easy thing to market. You go to the factory, you go to the ribbon cutting, and to Elon Musk's great credit, which he deserves it seems like if anybody has a factory humming, if anybody's expanding, if anybody's actually doing ribbon cutting and building gigafactories, it's Musk. I don't see anybody else doing it. Maybe it's going on. To me, it's still happening in Mexico. To me, it's still happening in Asia. I'm not seeing the only big factories that I'm actually seeing are all Elon Musk companies. In fact, they're about to do another boring company, huge ceremony for a big boring manufacturing facility here in Austin, Texas. I'm actually going to try to get access to that. But if it's not Musk, I don't see it.
Exactly. And this could have happened and this should have happened, but it hasn't happened. Now, largely, why have the tariff policy not translated into the reindustrialization? Well, some of it takes time, and there's parts of the tax plan that don't go into force until next year. But other parts of it are because of the Fed and because of Trump being up and down and erratic on it. This is a place where Trump's constant negotiations has undermined his industrial policy. Before somebody's going to create a $100 million factory, they want to know what the tariff policy is going to be at least a year from now.
Yep.
When they don't know what it's going to be tomorrow, that doesn't work well. And this is where Trump's shifting everywhere.
Let me pause you. So let me pause you there because I do want to have that conversation. But I want to get back to the last question about the Supreme Court decision that I guess you're not anticipating tomorrow. So you're kind of against the grain on that. Most people are anticipating that tomorrow. You're against the grain on that. Okay, that'll be interesting. And then I guess this market drama continues, right? Now you get to decide. All right, do you want to keep riding the waves? Do you want to keep the pump and dump going, or is it going to stay stagnant? That'll be interesting. Do you think that the president should have these powers? if you're a Supreme Court justice, what argument do you make?
Constitutionally, no. In the way he's done it, there are certain. I think Congress can indeed delegate tariff policy to the president. I think there's plenty of instances where they clearly have. I think that to the scale Trump has used it, he has exceeded those powers. Now, I think he could, if he had limited it to specific economic emergencies with specific set of issues with a particular adversarial economic political regime, then I think that fits. Because to me, it starts with, yes, this is an Article 1 power, but can Congress delegate it to the president? There's a lot of foreign policy reasons why that would make sense. So, and Congress clearly, in my view, has, and I agree with Justice Thomas's line of questioning that says this is within Congress's authority to delegate to the president. But then the question becomes, did they? And there were aspects of his tariff policy, like toward China, that he could easily fit within a bunch of congressional authorizations. There were a bunch of other tariffs, like the ones he imposed on Brazil, ones he imposed on India, ones he imposed to support Ukraine, all of that quite frankly didn't fit any of the economic statutes. And because they didn't fit the statute, that means they didn't fit the constitutional authority, because this power sits with. And I don't want a broad emergency power like the kind Trump is claiming. Trump is claiming he can basically do anything in the name of an emergency. And as Justice Gorsuch pointed out, and even asked, he goes, couldn't a Democratic president say climate change requires these bunch of policies? And now all of a sudden they can tariff everything in the world to support climate change? And they're like, yeah. I was like, okay, that tells you why we don't want him to have.
And by the way, that's the same reason why I am so against ending the filibuster right there. So it's like the same thing. It's like, I understand where Trump is coming from. I understand why he wants to end the filibuster, just like I understand why he wants this broad tariff power. I totally get where he's coming from. But at the same time, maybe not as much as with the tariffs. With the filibuster, certainly, I know if you end that filibuster and the Democrats take, God forbid, the Democrats get the White House and the Senate and the House, if the Republicans don't have the filibuster, forget about it, folks. I mean, and it's funny because I heard Trump today talk. He was talking about how, if we don't do this, whatever. And he was talking about the filibuster. He says, then the Democrats will, they'll make DC a state and they'll do this and they'll do the other thing. And I'm standing there, I'm like, Mr. President, they're going to do that if you end the filibuster. It's like, either way, they're going to try to do that. And if you take away the filibuster, you've taken away your last line of defense.
Well, in my view on that is, the real question, I agree in principle with what you're saying. The question is, if Democrats get a majority, are they going to get rid of the filibuster anyway? And so are you only forfeiting a power that they're going to take quickly? The only reason they didn't get rid of it last time was because you had Fetterman, Manchin, and Sinema say no. Manchin is gone. Sinema's gone. If they get back, say, 52 or more Democratic seats.
Fetterman is gone too. He's just still in Congress.
Yes, he wants to flip to the Republican side, actually, but he hates all the neocons and Mitch McConnell. So that's why he's not flipping over. People forget he comes from the blue-collar wing of the Democratic Party in Pennsylvania. I think if I were to do it all over again, one, I would have had Trump target Taylor and more clearly and simply the tariff power, would have told him don't abuse the power. And third, go to Congress early, right? When he had maximum leverage, say, hey, we've got a trade problem in America. I just got elected. I want to protect American wages. I want to protect American jobs, and make Congress object, because that's the kind of place where the American people elected him for, to take on to take on Wall Street, to take on big tech, take on big ag, take on big pharma.
Whoa. Take on big tech, take on Wall Street.
That's what he was elected to do.
Take him to the highest levels of all time, or like.
That's the problem. And him up there yipping about the stock market is bad politics, is bad optics. Like, I get people.
I can't believe nobody is in his ear saying, Mr. President, just stop saying it. Just stop saying it. And I know why he does it, because he's all about positive messaging, keep morale high, have people believe, that's just how he operates. He's always been that way. So I get why he does it. But this is politics. It's a different world. It's a different world than business. It's a different world than, say, a country club. It's a different world than a TV set. The people respond to the things that you say differently than they do in all of these other different situations. So I can't believe somebody's not, and maybe they are, and he's just not listening. But it's like, Mr. President, if you want to sell hope on the economy, that's fine. If you want to sell faith that we can turn this around, that's fine. But when you're telling people that we're already in the golden age, and when you're telling people that things are going great right now when they're not, and the average American is, I mean, they're as desperate as a, day-to-day, paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle than they've probably ever been. This messaging, it's hurting the credibility of the administration, which maybe he doesn't care about, but it's making it a lot more difficult for Republicans to win elections.
Oh, no doubt. In fact, it reminds me of summer of 2017 and early 2020 during COVID. I remember going on Fox and saying, because Trump was about to jettison Steve Bannon. And I was like, fine, but you better get some other Bannons in there. Because if not, you're going to be more and more isolated and more and more bubble, and you're going to lose connection with the ordinary voter. And then we saw March 2020, that's what happens. I remember he retweeted me saying, don't worry, I'm not going to do any lockdowns. I'm not going to support any of these policies. All that. And then flipped in 1 month. How does that happen? Because he's increasingly being surrounded by Jeffrey Epstein neighbor Howard Lutnick. He's by George Soros, Scotty Bessent, who's the one that's been feeding him nonsense. Say, yeah, you could do this on tariff, knowing it would undermine him. Didn't care. He came out yesterday and said after sitting in the Supreme Court's clearly going to rule in Trump's favor. He's just lying. He's just buying time with Trump. He's just blatantly lying. He's the one who lied to him about the Russian economy. He's the one who lied to him about how China would play with raw earth.
This is so hard to hear because you may agree, you may disagree. I think that of the entire administration, despite what you said, I can't even say I disagree with what you said. I would still probably say that Bessent and Lutnick are still two of the best people in his administration. They're actually doing work. I don't know what else anybody is doing. At least I know they're doing something.
Yeah, indeed. Unfortunately, it's mostly sabotage. Now, I think from Trump's perspective, this has become really clear to me in his second term. He thinks once he gets elected that he has to have other power brokers of other industries at the table. And he often has to defer to them. And that his job is to negotiate with them. And so, I'm going to have a Wall Street representative as Secretary of Treasury and Secretary of Commerce. I'm going to have a military industrial complex, national security establishment representative as either Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense. And a deep state representative is either CIA or ODNI. And so thus Ratcliffe is CIA. All he's doing is he's giving him constant false intel. I had this debate with, let's say, high-ranking members of the administration recently, where they believed utter nonsense about the Russian economy, utter nonsense about what's happening in Ukraine, and utter nonsense about Venezuela. And I was like, where are you getting your intel on this? I mean, it's the same Biden bad faith actors, Obama bad faith actors that were in the State Department, CIA, and Pentagon are still there. And the good people that came in, that Vance tried to bring in, most of them had been purged by the Israel lobby. They tried to find any time they had said any dissident information on Israel and purged them. They have effectively blacklisted Tulsi Gabbard from her own administration. And how do they do it? They use the lie that Iran was just about to have nuclear weapons. I mean, the same lie Bibi's been telling for 34 years.
They're bringing it back up. They're building it back up.
Oh, of course they are. But Bibi's got to have a new excuse. Bibi, it's like that South Park episode where South Park figures out how to use the castle doctrine. And so he draws a little circle and he keeps waiting for Token to come in and then he shoots him. He was like, he stepped in the circle. That's basically the Bibi.
Or I think it was season 2, even before that. It was, he's coming right at me. He's coming right at me.
Exactly. That's Bibi. Whether it's Israel, whether it's Gaza, whether it's Hamas, whether it's Iran, whether it's Libya, whether it's Syria, whether it's Lebanon. I mean, can you imagine we're meeting with the former terrorist that had a $10 million bounty on him, and we're going to put a military base there now. We're going to we're going to have our own military base in Syria.
Yeah, I saw something about that in the news. It didn't make my final stack. But I know Ron Paul, God bless Ron Paul, and look, Trump is 80 years old and he's still, he does work hard. You can't deny it. He's in there working probably 15, 16 hours a day. But here's Ron Paul, old decrepit Ron. He's sitting at his little desk, he's had a stroke. I don't know. I think he's 90 now. And he's up and he's ranting and raving about how we just put the ISIS leader in charge of Syria. And I'm like, my God. Like Rand Paul still has more fire as an American patriot at age 90 than every single weak-kneed, pathetic, spineless Republican that we have in Congress.
Oh, by a long mile. And yesterday was a screaming warning sign. And then they're just trying to ignore it. Now, credit to Vice President Vance. He recognized. He was like, we got to razor focus on the economy. And that's what Vance and others are telling Trump. And Trump is pushing back on that today. No, we own affordability. Affordability is awesome. All the prices are down. The economy is the greatest ever. There's a time, as you point out, to do the Barnum routine that Trump loves. And there's a time not to do it. Repeating Biden's strategy of gaslighting everybody, trying to pretend the economy is great when consumer sentiment right now is as low as it was about the economy and employment as it was at the worst depths of the of the great financial crisis. That's how bad it is. It is falling. That's what that election was yesterday. It was especially the new MAGA, young MAGA, Hispanic MAGA, Black MAGA, some Muslim voters that came over. They all jumped ship, and they jumped ship everywhere. New Jersey, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Southwest Texas. They had margins yesterday in Texas that were worse than 26. They were the worst they've ever been for a Republican candidate.
You know what? I'm gonna bring it back because I want to play the Amy Coney Barrett clip, but I do want to have this conversation because it is important. And you saw the same thing that I saw. And I'm seeing a lot of these voices, and they're saying, "Oh, it was just Democrat cities. It was just blue races." And I'm just like, do you not do any research before you talk? And the answer is yes. Most of these people in political punditry, they actually don't do research. They just talk. They don't research. They don't even know what they're talking about. So if you out there say that, hey, don't worry, it was just blue areas, just to rehash the facts so that people get a little context for what you're saying that you were just getting into. Democrats took power in Mississippi and Georgia that they haven't had since the turn of the 21st century. Okay. In Mississippi and Georgia, they won in red districts in Connecticut. You just talked about Texas districts. It's young men
in Pennsylvania, Bucks County,
Ohio.
Yeah, they voted for Democrats in places that they hadn't voted for Democrats in over 100 years. Over 100 years.
I said it was the worst night for Republican Party politics since 2008.
Absolutely. No, in fact, what I'm saying is 2026 is going to look a lot like 2006. And people don't remember that was a bloodbath in the House and the Senate. It previewed what was coming with 2008. And remember, it was just a year removed from Republicans thinking how awesome they were, how dominant they were, that they won the 2004 election despite all the counters, that they'd done well in the prior midterms, that everything was just peaking. And those of us on the popular side were like, you guys are about to get screwed. And they were just asleep at the wheel.
And by the way, this all stems from the same low approval Middle East foreign policy. It's the same reason why Obama won. It's the same reason why Trump won. I make the argument that the last two presidents, because Biden was obviously, that was a stolen election, so we just kind of don't count that. I make the argument that the last two presidents, Obama and Trump, were both elected because of they campaigned against Middle East foreign policy that has an extremely low approval rating now on both the left and the right, mind you.
Oh, completely. I mean, not only that, George W. Bush, remember, let's not be the world's policeman. Remember that? Bill Clinton with Ross Perot was talking about, we're not going to do blood for oil. I mean, since the end of the Cold War, there is no appetite for these. And what's amazing is these neocon losers, these Ziocon losers that are CHOQ losers. I do think, you call them CHOQ conservatives? That was a very good.
CHOQ conservatives. Yeah.
CHOQ conservatives. I mean, a lot of them really are.
But here's what's funny. That was from 2015 and 16.
Yeah,
that's it. We're rehashing that because, and I said this too. I said the first kind of wave, and I don't even like using this word, and I don't get depressed, but let's just, for the sake of this conversation, the first wave of depression for me, Bob, was when we started to go into this after Trump was elected. And I thought we had gained so much ground on the right. I thought we completed like a 50-yard pass. I thought we had a fly route down the sideline to Jamar Chase for 50 yards. I thought we had a big chunk play. And then it started to hit, and it was like, wow, we really only gained like 5 yards, actually. We actually only gained like 5 yards politically. And the neocons and the CHOQ conservatives, and now it's the woke right and everything else. They're back. They're back, and they're gatekeeping again, and they're costing us elections again. And I'm watching this, and in fact, here, let me pull this up. You'll actually find this funny. Let me see if I can find this in my stack, because it just quantifies everything. I won't waste your time searching for this in my stack. But basically, somebody says, I got to find the exact quote. You'll get such a kick out of it. Bob Barnes is with us, the founder of the 1776 Law Center, the official legal team of the Owen Report. Oh my gosh. I got to find this. You're going to get a kick out of it whenever I finally do. But basically, it's these people saying, here it is. I got it. How many elections or voters has Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, or Ian Carroll won? Maybe strike Ian from that. Let's replace me because he actually later says my name in this. How many elections or voters have Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, or Owen Schroyer won? Oh, 0. Got it. They don't know how to win. They do nothing. Hold on a second. We won in 2016. We beat you. What do you mean? We won. We are the ones that won in 2016. We won in 2020, and we won in 2024. That was us. That was our movement. That was our guy. Now you guys have taken over, and you just lost everything. It's like, honestly, the denial, the projection that we're seeing on the right, again, I thought we gained 50 yards. We're lucky if we gained 5.
Well, I mean, truly, I thought we'd won back the country. I thought the country was at risk in 2024. And I thought we won it back. And unfortunately, it's back in jeopardy all over again. It's in now. We still have some big key allies up there. Robert Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, J.D. Vance, to a certain degree, Eldridge Colby. There's a range, and there's a bunch of younger activists, the kind they were trying to purge out of Heritage Foundation. Kevin Roberts.
There's a whole struggle session going on there.
Correct, because they're shocked at all these young conservatives that are all a bunch of populists. That's what the new right is. Look at Paul Dance challenging Lindsey Graham in South Carolina, right? These guys they were OG MAGA before.
We're Team Mark Lynch here. We're Team Mark Lynch.
Either way, anti-Lindsey Graham. So that mindset, that mentality. I mean, I happen to know Dance personally from the 2020 election fighting in Georgia. And he went in and just scolded everybody that was there, the entire political establishment. They didn't realize these people, like, the reason why the Swampy Susie went out of her way to make sure Dan's was not part of the administration was because she wanted to contribute. I mean, look at Swampy Susie. She has a hairdo from the 1980s. That's what the life she lives in. She's like Back to the Future in the wrong way. She gatekeeps Trump unbelievably. And so, I'll give credit to Raheem Kassam. He put it out the other day. He's like, this is where MAGA goes to die. It's a Swampy Susie Wiles. Then you've got Soros Scotty, long deep ties to George Soros. He made him tons of money. You can even look at it. Soros decides that Bessent's going to leave and start his own hedge fund that Soros completely funds, by the way. And from that, in 2017, and from that point, Bessent starts to befriend Trump world. What was that really about? And who drew Elon Musk out of the White House? Number one person was Bessent. So much so he almost got into fisticuffs with him.
Well, there was a rumor that was the case. I think it might have been something else, but we don't need to go down that.
Yeah, there's other. I'm not going to say you shouldn't trust certain people with certain habits, but you really shouldn't trust certain people with certain habits.
Yeah, there's other circumstantial evidence regarding these situations.
Yeah, Elon had to protect himself in multiple ways.
Yeah.
It's the old joke in San Francisco: if somebody's trying to pick your pocket, you better hope they're reaching for your wallet. That's the nature of Soros Scotty. And then you got Narco Marco, who people always forget. Narco Marco. The reason how did this guy go from a blue collar family to suddenly getting to law school and getting on a whole different economic and political track? Well, it's because his family married into the cocaine cowboys. His sister married into one of the big cocaine cowboys. Who, by the way, later turned rat and everything else. And that's why I like to call him Narco Marco. But and little Marco, all the rest. He wants to go to war in Venezuela. Now Trump's talking about going to war in Nigeria. He thinks it's going to be popular. Hey, I found a new country to invade, everybody.
It's crazy.
It's one, and then it's continuing to support the disaster that is Ukraine, and then trying to keep Bibi from breaching the ceasefire and please not bombing another country tomorrow. There's odds on Polymarket. You can take how many countries is Israel going to bomb this week?
I think we're at 9. We're at 9 countries. I think just this year alone. It's hard to keep track. I've only got so many fingers on my hands to count all of these different countries that we're funding Israel's wars in. Daryl Cooper says Lindsey Graham winning his primary would be a greater blow to MAGA than Mamdani becoming mayor of New York City, and it's not even close. I agree.
Yeah, Mamdani he's campaigning as a left populist Bernie bro. If you look at, I get the conservatives want to have fun, the Marxist Muslim, the commie, all the rest. But if you look at how he's campaigning, that isn't what he campaiggned on. He can't, like, how did he do well in the debates? Every other candidate said, we will visit Israel as soon as we get elected mayor.
Yeah.
And Donnie said, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm going to stay right here in New York because we need somebody to look after New York.
Imagine that. Imagine it's so hard. It's so hard to just say, I care about America more than Israel. Is there a single Republican besides Marjorie Taylor Greene or Thomas Massey that's willing to do it? I wonder.
Oh, exactly. And I come as someone that has long defended Israel and long defended, why debated Nick Fuentes on other people. But it's Israel over Hamas, America over Israel. Always.
That's the problem. The problem is the entire issue has been completely bastardized. We're not even having an honest conversation about the issue. It's all of these straw men. Like, I hear it all the time. It's like, oh, you don't think Israel has the right to exist. I've literally never said that in my life. I've literally never taken a stance on that. And if you asked me, I'd say, yes, Israel can exist. It's not my issue. I don't even care, quite frankly. But it's like, it's a straw man. So it's like even Steve Bannon, who's been supportive of Israel in the past. You just mentioned yourself. This isn't about the state of Israel or Israeli Jews or even Jewish people at all. This is about Netanyahu, and this is about bad foreign policy. That's what this is about. These are political issues. And when we tie ourselves to Netanyahu and to this disastrous, low approval rating foreign policy in the Middle East, that's a political issue that's costing us politically, and it's going to cost us the midterms. And if we continue, it's going to cost us 2028. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about Jews. I guess some people are, but that's not the mainstream populist issue here. It's bad foreign policy. We don't want to be tied to Netanyahu. It's going to cost us elections. That's the issue. And everything else is like a straw man to distract you from the actual issue.
Well, it's kind of like the left is really racist at heart when they talk about black people. Black people can't get IDs. What are you talking about? But you can't do that for voter IDs. It's like, that is so bigoted and so prejudiced against black people. The same is true in reverse on the right. Like, I saw a bunch of people saying, why are Jews voting for Mamdani? Well, because about a third of Jews are anti-Israel. How do they not know this? There is no equal between Jewish and Zionist. There are, as a whole, Jewish voters are sympathetic with Israel, but even there, only a third are really Zionist. Orthodox Jews find Zionism to be religiously offensive because they think that to say Israel is more important than the Israel of the Bible. They don't equate the two. They never have. They're not like Ted Cruz, or that reverend there in Texas, who only, by the way, founded the Christian Zionist movement after he got caught giving the missionary position to one of his petitioners who wasn't his wife. And got kicked out of the church. Then he was like, "Oh, I got to go find a new cause." These people. This is not even within Jewish voter groups. There is no unanimity. Jewish voters hate Bibi. He's got an approval rating in the 20s amongst Jewish Americans. So, in this Zionist world, they like to pretend Israel equals Jews when it doesn't. It never has.
I think it's a strategy. I think it's a strategy so that they can't lose the foreign policy debate. So they prop up that in front of you, and then they say you're an anti-Semite, and that's their way of drowning out any serious debate on the issue. And they've done it successfully, but it's starting to get really.
It's completely gone.
Yeah.
In 5 years, Israel is a political pariah with all parties across the country.
Yeah.
It's Bibi Netanyahu has burned so many bridges. And what I said is he treated 10/7 like Bush treated 9/11, and the net effect was it destroyed credibility globally for forever. The U.S. Nobody believes this when we say Maduro's a narco terrorist. Nobody believes that outside of your like hardcore, Trump, the other version of TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. That whatever Trump says is like Jesus said it. Outside of that constituent, everybody knows that's complete hogwash. And you don't have to go any further than Tulsi Gabbard's own intelligence report in March. She's the one who said Iran is not close to nuclear weapons. Said Russia's army is just fine and isn't collapsing anytime soon. And said Maduro is not a narco-terrorist at all. So she rebutted all of these claims. That's why they had to blacklist her using false intel about the Iranian war to get Trump to break his promise to Tulsi's voters by excluding her systematically from intelligence advice.
And by the way, just so people, because they tend to forget, remember, Mossad or whoever it was, I'm saying it was Mossad intelligence, but people can say that's my conspiracy theory. Fine. I believe it was Mossad intelligence that started to feed into the American political conversation that the drones were Iranian drones. Now, of course, that turned out to be a blatant lie. They ended up probably being U.S. drones or something else, but it was never Iranian drones. They knew it. It was a total political lie, total political propaganda, and people went with it. But nobody really addresses that bad intel we continue to get from our great allies in the Middle East, or like, Netanyahu for 30 years saying weapons of mass destruction. We've never found one.
Exactly. And it's the same thing that's happening on Ukraine, same thing that's happening on Venezuela, same thing that's happening in part with Nigeria. Yes, there's, Boko Haram's a terrible movement, but the real reason we have sudden special, if we are concerned with Christians, why aren't we concerned with Zelensky locking up high-ranking priests so he can steal all the assets of the Ukrainian churches? That's the most oppressive Christian group in the world right now, is the Ukrainian government. And yet we're supporting them, subsidizing them, hurting the American consumer to protect and promote them. So why? Because Ratcliffe takes MI6 and Ukrainian intel, recycles it and launders it as their own. About the Middle East, he takes whatever Israel feeds him. Doesn't matter how stupid the lie is from Mossad. Recycles it and pretends it as their own. That's why Trump, like an idiot, so they're saying, we're right about to have nuclear weapons. Complete lie. Complete utter lie. And a stupid lie. A half-ass lie. A lie that can get us back there over and over and over again because, oh, golly gee, they're back. We're just 2 weeks away, everybody. And then Venezuela. Venezuela's not some narco-terrorist state. And Rick Grinnell cuts a deal where Maduro says you can come in and have all the oil you want, all the raw earths you want. But Trump's like, I'm personally vindictive. I don't want to get him. In this macho machismo BS routine that nobody wants us in Venezuela. Nobody wants us in the Middle East. Nobody wants us in Ukraine. Pull back and then focus on America. This whole Nobel Peace Tour stuff is other than nonsense anyway. All it does is it keeps reminding that working class voter in middle America that you don't give a rat's rear end about them. That's what you're telling them over and over and over again when you gaslight them about the economy and when you go on another foreign military adventure.
Yeah. Well, and notice, I don't really hear Trump rallying against globalism anymore. It seems as though he's embracing whatever this concept of globalism is that's pressing down on us. It seems now he's embraced it or has decided he's going to bring it in, because that's what this is all about. They need regime change in Iran. They need regime change in Russia, and they need regime change in Venezuela. That's what this is all about. It's all about getting leaders in those countries that will do the bidding of the corporate global government. That's what it's always been about. And these people won't go away. And so they're trying to do regime change wars to get them to go away. That's the truth of the matter. And, the average American can barely even comprehend what we're talking about. Okay. So that's one issue, right? The average American just has no idea that this is going on. But now we're back to the same thing where it's like, even the right wing that we thought was kind of caught up here, like even the right wing and Republican voters that we thought, okay, we're kind of caught up here. We've got a political body and a voting bloc that can kind of keep these types of policies out of the White House now, keep these types of policies out from dominating our government. And now, like I said, it's like, oh, gee, the Republicans have kind of just fallen right back into the same line of thinking that got them into all this trouble, that got us Barack Obama for 8 years.
Not only that, as when I watch Mamdani, and you watch congressmen like Ro Khanna and some others. There's a congressman running this way in the Democrat Party ticket on the 7th district that's going to have a special election in a couple of weeks. You're talking about like a plus 25 Trump district. I don't think Democrats going to win it, but I'm curious how much they underperform because it's historical populous West Tennessee. There's a little bit of affluent Franklin County and Davidson in there, but there's a lot of working class West Tennessee. Old school populist area. It used to be the anchor of the old Jacksonian. I used to call it the reverse L. You'd go from East Oklahoma through Tennessee, get to the West Virginia, get up in the Appalachian parts of Pennsylvania and Ohio. And this used to be the heart of the Democratic Party from 1828 to 2010. It took Barack Obama for them to go bye-bye. If they are showing below average enthusiasm, that's going to be another huge warning sign in a couple of weeks. And it's interesting is if Democrats are smart, they'll do two things. They'll run against Israel. I saw Ackman panicking today because they've come up with this detailed platform as to how New York City can screw Israel. Not realizing that's very popular. In the Dutch elections, I lost money on it a little less because I underestimated the opposition to Israel and how it boosted
Ireland. Did you see Ireland is?
Oh yeah, no, I made money on her.
Ahead of it. Ireland's trying to get ahead of it. I wonder what McGregor is going to do because the Israeli lobby's already, they've already brought McGregor in. He's already in bed with them. But I don't know. McGregor might look at what Ireland is trying to do, avoiding the Israel issue, and he might decide he's not going to run on it.
Yeah, I don't think he's as desperate as Tommy Robinson. So I don't think he's going to be showing up in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv wearing little Israeli outfits.
But I'm sure you saw after Wilders, I mean, he's like the Trump of Netherlands. Wilders was like the Trump of Netherlands, very popular. He got all in with the Zionists. He went all in on the Israel issue, and now he's losing, and his party is losing.
He lost a third of his support.
And so the Ireland populist movement saw that, and they said, guys, we can't do this. We have to.
She won as president. She went from nowhere to an easy dominating win. Connolly. And what's the number one thing that stood out about her? Pro-Palestine. So, I mean, this is happening everywhere in the Western world. And in New York City, if Mamdani is like, the real Achilles heel with Mamdani is he loves bureaucrats, loves social workers instead of cops. And then third, he loves illegal immigrants. Those are his political vulnerabilities outside of New York on a global stage to pigeonhole Democrats. What's not a vulnerability that conservatives are pretending is taxing rich people and big corporations. Not unpopular, folks. Never has been. Giving people universal programs, right? This is old school left populism, which is you don't create a little program for this group and a little program for that group and 300 bureaucrats to implement one program. You create universal programs, universal pensions.
Like Social Security.
Universal security, universal health care, the things that not universal health care, it's government controlled, but universal access, those. And what's he doing? Free buses, accessible childcare, reduced housing costs. We'll see if rent control works, but New York's had rent control for 50 years.
Well, we'll see if any of it works.
Yeah, exactly. But some portion of it may, to the surprise of a lot of their conservative critics, actually work. I see people assuming some of these things won't. And I'm like, depending on how he does it, there is a history of left populism, at least in the perception of the voter, working. The second is look at the political battles he gets to bring. Him versus big developers, him versus big corporations, him versus New York's billionaires. These are political winners, no matter if he wins on policy or not. And the Trump world better wake up to that. Because what I keep trying to tell the right is that if you don't deliver on the promises of right populism, you're going to get left populism. There was a legitimate crossover vote of young voters who voted for Trump and turned around and voted for Mamdani. Because when they hear, hey, this guy wants to blow everything up and burn everything down, they're like, yeah, that's what I want more of.
And by the way, a very similar phenomenon happened with Obama and Trump. A lot of men my age that are probably more on the right. And I'm 36, so we were in college when Obama first ran. So you tend to have maybe some more liberal leftist tendencies when you're younger like that. But even my friends that were definitely more right, definitely more conservative culturally, politically, and certainly are today, they voted for Obama as a protest vote. They voted for Obama as a protest vote. And it's very common. And it's like Trump he got in there, man. He busted that door down and gave us access to that protest vote. And in less than a year, we've kicked it right back out into the left-wing populist movement. And it's just like people are running around like they don't know what's going on, and it couldn't be more obvious.
It's incredible. I mean, the gaslighting about what's going on in the election, the gaslighting about what's going on in the economy, the gaslighting about what is and isn't popular, all of these right-wingers that are jumping on the foreign nation train and think that's a win. Can you imagine? Well, what does it say about a party and its party's hierarchy and its elites that it spent the last 2 weeks before elections across the country obsessively bashing the number one, number two, and number three conservative podcasters in America? Yeah. I mean, Tucker Carlson, number one, Alex Jones, number two, Steve Bannon, number three, or you could reverse 2 and 3. And they're all like, oh, they all hate the Jews now. It's like, really? Steve Bannon woke up and hates the Jews. Alex Jones woke up and hates the Jews. Tucker Carlson, this is ridiculousness. This is insanity. These guys are on the cutting edge of showing you the direction to go to reach out to these voters. And the idea that if you interview Nick Fuentes, you somehow platform him. Nick lives off of being a martyr. He's created that for 5 years. And all these people have done is boost his notoriety at a scale of tenfold.
Which is so crazy because I just look at things full spectrum and then I can make up my own mind. But you have to have a dynamic perspective. You have to be able to see all the different angles and then you decide which angle you want to look into or which one you think is right. It's like all of these people that are obsessed with Fuentes now, it truly is Fuentes derangement syndrome. Yeah. And I wonder, it's so obvious that they don't have a very good worldview. They don't have much political perspective. And in fact, the perfect case in point that shows it is they're complaining about young men, and they're saying it's groypers, and they're complaining about young men that are celebrating the Mamdani victory. And they're like, see, they were leftists. See, they were communists. And I'm like, you just don't get it at all. Clearly, you just have no idea what's going on. The reason why they're celebrating, and it is a little bit tongue in cheek, but the reason why they're celebrating is because they're hoping that this will open your eyes. You have a political blind spot. You have a political blind spot that is killing us. It's killing us politically. And they're hoping that the election of Mamdani might finally open your eyes and reveal this blind spot that you have. But it hasn't. It hasn't at all. And we've seen that. And again, I just wonder, how much depth do they actually have in their political thought process? It seems to be very shallow, because if they had any depth, they'd be looking at this coordinated attack on Fuentes and start thinking about it from a different angle. Like, why all of a sudden, do you really think it's a coincidence? And you can go either way with this, but it's obviously not a coincidence that all of these people are attacking him at the same time. It's obviously not a coincidence. Now, I could see it, and I'm not saying I believe any of this. I think Nick is his own guy, and he can stand up for himself and answer whatever questions people have for him. I'm just saying, can't you see how this is clearly a coordinated campaign? Can't you see how this is clearly organized to either destroy right-wing populism permanently and use Fuentes as that kind of bastion that they're going to put on the pedestal to destroy, to tell the right wing, you'll never get America first. You'll never get American populism. Or maybe you're falling for a Democrat stunt.
Yeah.
Maybe you're falling for a Democrat plant. Again, I'm not saying I believe this stuff. I'm just saying, if you have truly dynamic, in-depth political thinking and analysis, these are the things that you would be weighing. They don't have any of it. They just smell a scent and they chase it down the road.
They live in a bubble of their own. Like, we often talk about the left's bubble. The right has its own bubbles as well. Nothing worse than the DC consultant class. They live in a tiny little bubble. But what you see with this group is like people, don't do your brain on drugs. Remember that little ad way back in the 80s where they had the frying egg and whatnot? Don't get your brain on Ben Shapiro or you end up like this. It's worse than drugs. But they have they live in this world where they think they're the majority. I was even explaining today. I was like, I'm getting contradictory responses in my replies. One is, everybody can't wait to go to war for whatever cause, whether it's Ukraine or Israel or Venezuela or something else, that the Americans can't wait to go to war for Israel. Also, Americans can't wait to start the Fourth Reich. And I'm like, okay, which is it? I mean, or everybody loves Israel and can't wait to do it, or everybody really hates the Jews and they want Hitler back in power. Maybe neither's true. Maybe both is delusional, reflecting the little bubble they live in. And they're trying to build up the panic and fear amongst these voters. You have Eric Weinstein, who I like, buddy of mine, and he's arguing with his brother, Brett Weinstein, who's like, hey, this is an overreaction, da-da-da. And Eric Weinstein's like, no, you don't understand. They're coming. Dave Rubin's like, they're coming. They're coming for us, everybody. They're coming. It's like, this is as crazy as like the Trantifa crowd that thinks the conservatives are coming to exterminate them, so they got to go out and murder them tomorrow. It's the same dangerous mindset.
Was it you that said that? Somebody said that Israel is the trans issue of the right. And I said, I don't know if you said that. Somebody said, I said that Israel is Black Lives Matter of the right. I said fighting anti-Semitism is like, Black Lives Matter for the right. It's the same, it's the same, social grift. It's the same guilt tripping type of thing that they do. That's
and the censorship and the special little divisions they've created for that. I mean, the cluelessness is just off the charts with that crowd. But they're mostly a crowd.
I'm convinced they have no social life. I'm convinced they have no friends. They don't talk to anybody. Honestly,
that's definitely the latter part's definitely true. They don't have connections to the real world.
I don't see how you could be so ignorant if you actually talk to normal people at all, ever.
Well, it's like the evangelical pastors. I've been trying to educate them. Many of them have known for years.
Oh, let's not go there.
Well, Eric,
let's not go there.
No. My message to him is simple. I get these texts from Gen X, conservative evangelical Christians who have been evangelical most of or all of their lives. And it's anger. It's not just anger. It's rage whenever they hear another, you don't love Jesus unless you love Bibi Netanyahu speech. They just get enraged. And I'm trying to tell them for their own advice. Like, you understand, young evangelicals get enraged when they hear this. You are insulting them. You are offending them. You are not helping your cause. You are hurting your cause. and they just don't want to listen because they live in a bubble. They're like the neoliberal bubble. It's the neo-conservative bubble.
That's it.
They don't understand. The country has moved on from this. Now, I tell people like who are worried about the election, populism is going nowhere. It will find an expression. It's like what Huey Long used to say in the 1930s when he was in the Senate. He goes, folks, when we're in here, we better either fix the problem for that crowd out there, or they're going to come in here and hang us all. And I got to decide whether I'm going to hang in here with you or go outside and lead the mob and hang you all. And he's like, that's the dynamic of what's happening in America.
It does feel like that's the dichotomy that is really starting to become cemented. It's like maybe now it's a line on the ground. Soon it's going to be like a bumper, and then it's going to be a wall, and then it's just going to be an outright dome. That does seem to be the dichotomy that we're going into politically. I do want to go back here because I'm about to let you go here. Bob Barnes with us, the founder of the 1776 Law Center, 1776lawcenter.com, the official legal team of the Owen Report. I want to play this. I want to play this Justice Barrett clip because there's a couple things in here that that strike me, let's say, that kind of send my antennas up. And I'm thinking that's an interesting thing to say. And you did mention one of these things, but there's a couple. I want to get to this short clip. It's about a minute and a half. Justice Amy Coney Barrett yesterday on the Trump tariff case. Let's go to Justice Coney Barrett here.
And then if you win, tell me how the reimbursement process would work.
So this is what you were talking about earlier with the reimbursement process. And I'll let her get into this, and then I'll kind of pitch to you my question of why this one sent my antennas up.
And then if you win, tell me how the reimbursement process would work. Would it be a complete mess? I mean, you're saying before the government promised reimbursement, and now you're saying, oh, well, that's rich. But how would this work? It seems to me like it could be a mess.
So the first thing I'd say is that just underscores just how major a question this is. The very fact that you were dealing with this with quotas, there's no refund process to the tunes of billions of dollars or embargoes, but there is here. But for our case, the way it would work is, in this case, the government stipulated for the 5 plaintiffs that they would get the refunds. So for us, that's how it would work. Your question, I take it, is about everyone else. We don't have a class action or anything like that. With respect to everyone else, there's a whole specialized body of trade law, and it's in 19 USC 1514 outlines.
All right, I'll tell you what, it gets a little wonky there. But so let me tell you what sent my antennas up here, Bob. The way that she phrased that question seems like it was meant to serve it up. It was meant to put it on a tee. Let me get conspiratorial here. I think Amy Coney Barrett is working against Trump here. I think there's something going on, and I think that question was a predetermined question to put that issue out there to say, hey, these tariffs are no, I don't know. It felt just the way she brought it. It felt very predetermined to me. I don't know. It felt I didn't like it.
I thought he could have had a better answer, and I think she anticipated he would. What she was telling and signaling to him is that there's a concern on the court, which I anticipated, that they don't want to order Trump to write $4 trillion checks. They don't want the net effect of their decision, because remember, they denied the stay. If they had granted a stay, this wouldn't be a problem. They could have frozen his tariffs in place. They chose not to. And now they're like, if we say we were wrong from the get-go and really never should let the tariffs go forward, are we making the government, we'll look like the Supreme Court orders Trump issue $1 trillion checks to foreigners. They know that won't play well. So she thought Katyal would have a quick answer on that to serve it up and say, oh, no, you don't have to worry about that. This is how he should have framed that. Oh, no, this case only impacts these 5 people, Your Honor. That's it. There's not a class action. No worries. You can totally reverse. No impact. Make her follow up if she wants to about what if other people then bring suit and so on and so forth. And say, oh, I'm not sure it's within the statute of limitations. I don't know. Right? There's a lot of ways to weasel his way. But he didn't. Instead, he gave that bureaucratic kind of answer. All these Obama neoliberals, they always have these kind of bureaucratic answers. They just can't answer things straightforwardly. Now, by the way, I do personally consider it partial torture to make me listen to Amy Coney Barrett on anything.
That's why I cut it short. All right, I didn't want you to listen again.
But yeah, I think they want to find a way to split the baby on the remedy. So look for them to try to find a carve out. But I don't think it will be on the merits, because they don't like what Trump has done, how he's used the power. None of them do. not the liberals, not the corporatists or institutionalists, that's Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Barrett, nor the conservatives, constitutionalists, Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch. And remember, Gorsuch comes from a more libertarian bent. And Trump has made it clear, in case anybody was any doubt, he likes to slap libertarians in the face over and over and over again. So I've been telling them, I was like, what's the point of waging war on Thomas Massey, waging war on Rand Paul, waging war on Elon Musk for a period of time? This is not a game of addition. It's just subtraction and subtraction, the politics game you're playing. And it's like, I don't understand slapping these libertarians in the face again.
Well, I think what happened with Musk was he invested a lot of time. His companies took a major hit. He, as a personality, took a major hit. And then they didn't even get Doge. He spent a lot of his own time, a lot of his own money and energy on this campaign. And then they basically just kicked him out and said, this project that we said you could do, you're not going to do it anymore. So I think that's where that kind of rift and fallout really came from.
Did you notice when they cut off Doge? It was, as Musk said, it's time for Doge to go to the Federal Reserve, time for them to go to the IRS, time to go to the CIA, time to go to the Pentagon. And that's when Soros
One more. What was the one more?
What was the last one?
Fort Knox.
Oh, yeah. Well, I consider part of the Fed. But you're right. Fort Knox, audit the gold. Then all of a sudden, that's when Soros Scotty was trying to fight him and tackle him and do other things to him. But Trump being on this huge and there's not enough people. JD tries to do it in a delicate way. He's a loyal guy at heart, so he's always going to be careful what he says publicly. But there's nobody to come to Trump and just smack him in the face. And that's what he needs now and then. He needs to be smacked in the face and say, no, this is garbage. This is nonsense. This is betraying your base. This is getting you into trouble. But apparently, if he stays on his current path, 2026 is going to be such a bloodbath. He'll spend the next 2 years in investigations and impeachments.
The only thing that's crazy about this new political cycle is that, I've determined that time is not linear. Time is actually like a spiral, and it actually, that's why it seems like it's moving faster, because with each rotation, the spiral gets smaller. The circumference actually gets smaller. So I think that the normal stuff that might happen in 4 years is now going to happen in 2.
Yeah.
So I feel like the bloodbath is going to hit in 2026, but there's actually an opportunity after that for Republicans to try to reset before 2028, instead of normally that kind of being a 4-year pattern. Right. I think that could all happen in 2 years twice now, is basically what I'm saying. Like the pendulum that used to be 8 years is now 4, used to be 4 years is now going to be 2.
Completely. And like what we're doing at 1776 Law Center is we're spoon feeding to the populist reformist wing of the White House. People like Kennedy, people like Gabbard, people like Vance, others that are in other key departments on issues like food freedom, medical freedom, political freedom, financial freedom. Here's some policies the executive branch can embrace and that Vance can utilize for 2028 if Trump doesn't, get on board. Things like drug companies should have to be responsible when their vaccines cause injury. You should be able to buy food directly from a farmer without getting a federal government permission slip that goes through the big corporate monopolist first. In terms of, and in political and financial freedom, capital directly accessible to you for small business, to be able to buy a home, to be able to afford everything. Real apprenticeship programs. They did a little bit of that in the budget. They got to tune it up times 10. There's these programs that would be very popular, and then basically make it Trump versus big ag, Trump versus big pharma, or Vance versus big ag, big pharma, deep state. Now all these neocons are doing him a favor by going after him right now, because they wouldn't be going after him if they thought Vance wasn't going to be the real reformer that Trump promised to be. So that is promising in its own way. So I agree with you. Populism is going nowhere. It will find its expression. Folks just want a torch in a direction. And we got to give them the torch in the direction, or that will look like a torch in a direction we don't want.
Yeah. And, you bring up Vance, and I wonder, because I do like JD Vance. I think the thing that I like the most about him is that he's young, and I'm just thirsty for leadership that looks more like me. I think that's natural for anybody. What I'm afraid of is that anybody from this administration, except maybe Tulsi Gabbard or RFK Jr., anybody from this administration is probably going to be unelectable. I just don't see how anybody at this rate. I mean, things can change. We're still in the first quarter, but at this rate, I don't see how anybody, including JD Vance, from this administration is electable, as great as he might be. What are the odds? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's why he's got to find ways to push these ideas and get them as part of the administration, however reluctant Trump may be to push them. it's going to be critical in these next 2 years. There's executive actions you can take without legislative approval or authorization that could show which side you're on. And if he gets Trump to at least embrace some portion of those, then I think he is still in good position come 2028. If he's unsuccessful, I agree. He's just another portrait on the wall, and he might as well have, stayed in private life and not run for office in the first place.
Yeah, well, obviously there's a lot of time for that to all be determined. So my final question for you today is, what are the odds? All of these people that are attacking Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson, what are the odds that they will be voting for one of them or somebody of their ilk in 2028?
I think high. Either this administration flips over the next year and starts returning unto its populist promises, at least at some level, or the administration is cooked in 2026 and in trouble through 2028. And either the Republican brand offers a populist option, or it will be an independent, not just Democratic brand, it'll be an independent brand, right? Let's say they beat Thomas Massie for the House. Nothing stops him from running as a libertarian, and he'll win as an independent libertarian in that district. So the populism will, if you're watching European politics, populist will find its voice. It's up to us for that voice to be the most effective voice it can be. Because if we don't make it so, the future looks a lot more like Mamdani and the French Revolution than it does the American Revolution.
All right, Bob Barnes, 1776 Law Center, 1776lawcenter.com, the official legal team of the Owen Report. And who knows, maybe we'll have some fun stuff coming for you on that front soon, too. Bob, have a great day. Have a great weekend. Always nice to catch up with you. Now you can finally light that cigar.
Exactly. Thanks, everybody.
There you go, brother. Bob Barnes, great friend of the show and of mine personally. And you know what? I talked earlier about maybe just starting to do some gambling stuff because it's just fun. We're allowed to have fun. I'm not even going to encourage anybody else to do it, but we're fun. And Bob likes to do that stuff too. So maybe we have a little combo for some fun with that later down the road. All right. We have just finished out the second hour of today's transmission. Final hour coming up. We've got some other market news. We'll see if we have time to get into the healthcare stuff that's on the desk today. I do want to get into some leftovers from the elections on Tuesday. So that's what's coming up next on today's Owen Report.
You're listening to the Owen Report on the Win Network.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about my friends at Blackout Coffee, blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. And I think what you're going to find out very soon is that if it's not already for you, Blackout Coffee is going to become not just a household name, but it is going to become your household coffee. Now, the reason I say that is because from my experience, Blackout Coffee, not only is it my favorite coffee right now, but there's just so many options. There's so many options for you. They have so many different options when it comes to the single serve pods that a lot of people are into right now. They have their machines. It's very convenient. It's very easy. You put in the pod, you got a fresh cup of coffee right there. They have so many different flavors. I think they have like 30 different flavors. I don't even know if I want to bother counting right now, but I think we're at about 30 different flavors here. So plenty of options to find one that you really like or have a couple that you really like. Of course, you can go to the full bags of coffee. My favorite is the dark roast, pitch black espresso. I'm a dark roast kind of guy. The Brutal Awakening, another dark roast. They have a 1776 dark roast too, but this is their premium coffee blends here. And they've got 6 different offers for you there, whether it's the medium roast, the light roast, or the dark roast. And then my go-to, it's so convenient. It's instant coffee. There's no other way to put it. It is instant coffee. It's fantastic. 32 instant coffee pouches in one box. So it's really just a fantastic deal. And yes, you can get 20% off right now with coupon code Owen. Go ahead and give it a try. Coupon code Owen, blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. Soon to be the household name when it comes to coffee in the United States of America. And also soon to be your household coffee brand. We thank our friends at Blackout Coffee for delivering us great tasting premium coffee and for sponsoring the show. blackoutcoffee.com/Owen. Use coupon code at checkout Owen for 20% off your first order. blackoutcoffee.com/Owen.
It's the fastest 3 hours on the internet. It's the Owen Report with Owen Schroyer.
Hey, did you hear the good news? I can't believe that it's even possible, but it's happening. Nancy Pelosi is retiring. Oh, my goodness. The Crypt Keeper. Death warmed over Nancy Pelosi, one of the greatest insider traders of all time. Maybe the greatest insider trader of all time, you could say. Nancy Pelosi and her friends at the Hammer Company. Nancy Pelosi is retiring. The old guard Democrat establishment is slowly but surely disappearing, and soon it'll be the right-wing old guard political establishment as well. You can feel it, you can sense it, and that's why they're so desperate to get as much of their corrupt agenda done now as possible, because they know their time is up. So it'll be bye-bye Nancy Pelosi. But then you wonder who they're going to replace her with. You know, it's not going to be anything good for the country. By the way, Elon Musk just won a $1 trillion payout. Elon Musk wins $1 trillion Tesla pay package. Shareholders approved a plan to grant Musk shares worth nearly $1 trillion if he meets ambitious goals, including vastly expanding the company's stock market valuation. So that's good news if you have Tesla stock. Wonder if we're seeing any movement on that right now with the news. It was up earlier today. It's one of the few stocks I think that was even up today. Let's see. Palantir took a hit today. Oh, Tesla's down today. That surprises me. I would think this news would boost it, but maybe that'll happen tomorrow. Maybe that'll happen tomorrow with Novo too. If not, I think that this stock market boom has maybe stalled out as people are waiting to see what they're going to do at the Supreme Court with Trump's tariffs. So this is really all over the news. Trump's AI czar, David Sachs, says no federal bailout for AI after OpenAI CFO's comments. Now, look, this gets a little beyond my pay grade when it comes to this sector of news. But it would appear there's some shady stuff going on. And I think that this fear of the AI stock bubble, I think it's a lot deeper than just raw numbers. I think there's something else going on. I think there's some cover-ups. I think there's some corruption. And this story with OpenAI, it kind of tells the story. David Sachs says there will be no federal bailout for artificial intelligence. Sachs is President Donald Trump's artificial intelligence and crypto czar. Sachs' comments came after OpenAI CFO Sarah Fryer mentioned a federal backstop during a conference. So basically, they were asking for this safety net, this backstop, which would indicate that their own confidence level is not very high. And like I said, the hedge right now with Trump and all of these companies is the stock market. That's their hedge. That's their backstop. So if the stock market goes down and the AI stocks go down and the quantum computing stocks go down and that whole sector It's mostly in the NASDAQ. If that whole sector goes down, then that's their own backstop. So now they're asking essentially for a bailout. They're asking, for me, this indicates they're asking for a bailout, but they're trying to get ahead of it. So it's like a pre-bailout. It's like a pre-collapse bailout. So to me, that indicates that confidence maybe is not so high as the markets might indicate. And maybe even there's something else really shady going on with some of these AI companies, and maybe specifically OpenAI, because OpenAI just signed some exclusive deals. You'd think their confidence level would be high right now. Why would they be asking for a federal bailout? That just reeks of something else going on. And I'm telling you, the markets they're watching this stuff, and they are very tense. Very tense. Hey, here's a crazy one. Actually, this just got updated today. I got this one earlier today. This is now, I believe they have now, they were deliberating when I had this. He's now been, I think he won the case today. Jury chews over fate of sandwich guy who became a DC hero after chucking a sub sandwich at a federal officer. Defense attorney Sabrina Shroff told the jury a foot long from Subway could not and certainly did not inflict bodily harm. Now, this story is actually hilarious. When you go and you look at the testimony, listen to this. Listen to this. The whole thing is ridiculous. This is from the defense attorney, Sabrina Shroff, of the sandwich guy. They're calling him the sub sandwich guy. He threw a sandwich at an ICE officer, and then he tried to run. This case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is about a sandwich. Defense attorney Sabrina Shroff told members of the jury during closing arguments on Wednesday afternoon. Shroff said that the Border Patrol officer Greg Larimore gave a very questionable testimony when he claimed that the sandwich exploded all over his chest and claimed he could smell the mustard, smell the onions stinging his nostrils, hitting his taste buds. A photo shows that the sandwich, however, was still in its wrapper on the ground after it hit Larimore in his bulletproof vest. But Larimore claimed he could feel it. And the defense said it's definitely not going to go through your bulletproof vest. It's just a sandwich. So, folks, this guy throws a sandwich at an ICE officer. I believe he works in the DOJ too. I believe it was a DOJ employee. Throws a sandwich at an ICE officer and then takes off running. Let me get you the official decision. They made a decision today. I'm almost positive he was found not guilty, which is insane to me. Let's see here. Jury acquits. Here you go. Jury acquits DC sandwich guy charged with chucking a sub sandwich at a federal agent. Now listen, folks. Oh my gosh. And I support the jury process. And having an informed jury and informed population is very, very important to our legal system. But you have to understand, if you're a conservative in DC, if this guy would have been a conservative and would have had a sandwich was thrown at a liberal, this guy would be in jail for 10 years. A DC jury would find him guilty and put him in jail for 10 years if he threw a sub sandwich at a liberal. But because he's a liberal and he threw it at an ICE agent, and that's a hot topic, they let him go. A conservative, if you get into the courts in DC, you're never going to a jury trial. And you know if you are, you're losing. But if you're a liberal, then you're going to be good. I mean, folks, look, I think we can be reasonable here and say, and maybe it was the testimony. Maybe it was the testimony. Oh, the smell of the mustard. The lettuce exploded all over my uniform. The onion stung my nostrils, and I teared up in agony. It's like, what is this, a Shakespeare performance? So you could say that they were obviously exaggerating the impact of a sub sandwich. Okay. But this is ridiculous. Okay. Now, I'm not saying this guy needs to fry, but what is the message here? If you assault a federal agent in D.C., you will get off. You will get away with it. So now it's going to happen again. Now it's going to happen. Now it'll be a rock. Now it'll be a jar of their excrement. And they know, yeah, I'll get arrested, but I'll get into a D.C. court and a D.C. jury and I'll get off. I'll be acquitted. So I'm not saying this guy needs to have the jail thrown at him. He doesn't need to be thrown into the jail. But are you really acquits? You walk up to a law enforcement officer and you chuck an object at them? I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's a sandwich or a water balloon or a rock. If you chuck an object at them point blank range and then take off running and evading arrest, how is it that you're not found guilty? What would a fair verdict be? Because I was thinking about this last night. A fair verdict to me is like, maybe you give him an option and say, look, you can either do a week in jail. You can either do, I would say, I'd give you an option. I'd say you can do 10 days in jail or you can do 120 service hours. Take your pick. A week or 10 days in jail or 120 service hours. Acquits for assaulting an officer? Have we lost our damn minds? Yes, in Washington, D.C., they have. That is insane to me. You get nothing. I've never assaulted anybody. I've never even touched a law enforcement officer in a bad way at all, of all the times I've been arrested. And every time I get thrown in jail. This guy actually assaults a law enforcement officer and gets acquitted. That's insane. The sandwich guy. So if you're an ICE agent in D.C., go to work hungry. You might get a free sub sandwich and just eat it. Just don't even bother arresting the individual that throws the sandwich at you because they're going to get acquitted. So just eat the sandwich. All right, couple things here. Did you know that Andrew Cuomo has a really good-looking niece that ran his campaign, Bella Cuomo? So this is Bella Cuomo. She ran Andrew Cuomo's campaign for mayor. Okay. So this video is going viral probably because of, how she looks. Because I noticed most people aren't even picking up on what she's saying or what she's doing. So this was election night. This is Bella Cuomo, the niece of Andrew Cuomo, who ran his campaign. This is election night. Okay? So try not to be distracted about, the whole appearance here. And look at what she's doing and listen to what she's saying. Again, this is election night. This is Andrew Cuomo's niece who ran his campaign on election night.
Oh, Andrew Cuomo's niece? Yes. Wow, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. We ran a great campaign, and no matter how it goes, we're winners.
Right. And so you're hoping for...
Oh, we ran a great campaign, and no matter how it goes, we're winners. You already lost the primary. You know you're about to lose the mayor's race. And she's here smiling and laughing and saying how great it is, and no matter what, they're winners. How much do you think she was getting paid, by the way? No wonder she has such a smile on her face. It gets worse.
For the best?
Obviously, I'm hoping for the best, but I feel good about what we did and the message
Did you see that coming into the screen there? I think it comes into the screen again. Go ahead.
that we put out.
Oh! Is that wine you're drinking? Hey, I got no problem. You want to drink some wine, but you haven't even won. You don't even know the results, and you're already clinking glasses, and I bet you, if that's wine, I bet you it's not cheap. Oh, I bet you that's not a $20 a bottle of wine. I bet you it's not even $100 a bottle of wine. I bet you that's some nice wine. Did they even want to win? Does this look like somebody that wanted to win? Does this look like somebody that even cares about the results? She's already said, oh, we won no matter what. How much was she getting paid? How much was Andrew Cuomo paying his niece to run his campaign, who's out here drinking wine before the results even come out? She's loving life, having a great time, probably just made a ton of money running this campaign, drinking wine, celebrating. We all just got rich. Who cares if we win?
And, you know, if you feel good about what you did, then you feel good about what you did.
How is candidate Andrew as an uncle?
He's a great uncle. I mean, we've definitely gotten closer. I actually had a really...
Whoa, how close? We don't want to know. We know about Andrew, and, you know, he gets a little feely here. So, whoa, easy with that type of talk.
Great time working for him. And, yeah, it was stressful, but it was also fun.
Oh, yeah, you seem so stressed. I got to say, it seems like you are so stressed. It seems like you are really thinking about the results. You weren't thinking about wearing a skimpy dress that shows off your curves and drinking wine with a fancy handbag. That's definitely not what you were thinking about.
And we had a good work culture. I really liked everyone on the team, and that's all you can ask.
That's all you can ask. You know, that's all you can ask.
Say he doesn't win, what do you think he'll do?
You know, he does like consulting and stuff. He does fine, but this is what he loves and this is what he was meant to do. So you got to try to do what you love to do, you know?
All right, good luck.
There you go. There you go. Bella Cuomo. Very popular. Very popular, you know? Do you conservatives, do you right-wingers, Trump supporters, all of you guys that endorsed Andrew Cuomo, do you have any regret? Do you have any remorse? Do you feel bad at all for what you've done? Are you embarrassed? You should be. You should be ashamed. All that stuff that you guys said about Sliwa, that's what should be said about you. All that negative energy that you directed at Sliwa, all that blame that you directed at Sliwa, all those attacks on Sliwa, that should all be directed at you for endorsing Cuomo. And look at how foolish you were. Sliwa actually ran a real campaign. Sliwa actually wanted to win the election. And if you watched his campaign headquarters that night, they weren't drinking fancy wine. They weren't smiling it up, dolling it up for the media. They weren't saying they won no matter what. No, they were there intense and focused and then passionate and fired up after the results, sending messages to Mamdani, sending messages to the people of New York in a fiery way, in a patriotic way. Did you get any of that from Cuomo? No. Did you get any of that from the people that endorsed Cuomo? No. That's what you got right there. Fancy, rich, right-wing, arrogant elitists sipping on wine, blaming the good guy for everything that they caused. It's disgusting. You guys are everything that's wrong with the right wing. You guys are the reasons why Republicans will lose elections. You just put out the Promethean fire. The populist, the populist patriot movement and the Promethean fire that we had to save this country, you just put it in water and then you flew to a foreign country, didn't you? Hot girls for Cuomo. I guess now we see what Hot Girls for Cuomo was all about, huh? It was never about victory, was it? It was always about money. It was always about lights, camera, action. And the real guy who was out there in the trenches, the real guy that put his heart and his soul and his neck out there, and you guys crapped all over him. And this is what you endorsed, a campaign that never cared about winning, that never even tried to win, that just wanted to ride it out for the payments, ride it out for the cash, ride it out for the attention. And that's what you endorsed. And you have no remorse, no regret, nothing. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. Now, getting more into the election results, there was something happened. There was something that happened that didn't get much attention. And the reason it didn't get much attention is because right-wingers and Trump supporters are either disenfranchised or completely removed. They're just done. They're out. And I think that this is the proof. Now, if you've been following elections, mostly since 2020, you know about the election fraud, and you know how they do it, and you know the signs of it. We've already been through this. And 2020 was the greatest example, but it happened in 2022. It happened again in 2024. Well, it happened again this week. And you didn't hear about it. And I think that's total proof that MAGA is dead. Because the stuff that happened Tuesday night, if it would have happened in 2024, there would have been another January 6th. But it happened Tuesday night, and most people barely even batted an eye because they're out. They're done. They're disenfranchised, or they're just done. They don't care anymore. They're not going to fight. And it's sad. But here's Emerald Robinson. And by the way, this is Emerald Robinson who gets attacked by the Republican establishment. This is Emerald Robinson, who's an actual truth-telling conservative in the media working with Lindell TV now. Her show, The Absolute Truth with Emerald Robinson. She's still covering it. She's still fighting for the Republican politics. Did any of these people pointing the fingers, we covered them all yesterday, did any of these people point out what happened on Tuesday night like Emerald Robinson did? Isn't that amazing? These people pretend like they care. These people pretend like they fight for elections. They pretend. And that's all it is pretend. And then when they lose, they blame everybody else. And it's all pretend. No, it happened again Tuesday night. First, I'll give you the breakdown from Emerald Robinson, and then I'll actually show you the line graph of exactly what it is she's talking about. But again, as you hear from Emerald Robinson, ask yourself this: has anybody else said this? Where are all those loudmouth conservatives blaming everybody they don't like? Where are all those loudmouth Republicans blaming everybody they don't like? Where is Conservative Inc.? Where is the neocon movement? Where are all of them who were loud as hell Tuesday night, loud as hell Wednesday? Have you heard any of them say anything like this?
Not going to sugarcoat it, folks. The elections that were held yesterday were illegal. The polls went down in Pennsylvania, the poll pads. The voting machines stopped working in Ohio and in New Jersey in one county, and bomb threats were called into districts also in New Jersey. That means that Republican voters were blocked from voting. That means that Americans were disenfranchised, to use one of the Democrats' favorite words. Where are the federal officials? Why is America's entire election system allowed to continue as a fraud committed against the American people? And yes, we already know it's a fraud from many obvious reasons. You know this because Jason Miyares had a significant polling lead just 24 hours before the election yesterday, and it disappeared in a fraud curve that we're all familiar with because we saw it before in 2020. It was so bad even that mail-in ballot master Scott Presler had to warn everyone that the machines went down in red districts. Of course, they were red in the state of New Jersey. You know it's bad, folks, when even Scott Presler notices the fraud. Now, Milo pointed out on Twitter X that Scott Presler does not actually deliver victories, but mostly excuses. So true. There's no evidence that Presler or Turning Point Action really deliver GOP victories. Why? Well, because the push for early voting is just another scam. Early voting is part of the problem. You cannot early vote your way out of rigged elections. The people who told you that early voting worked were not election security experts. They were scammers who like to take selfies, and lots of them. And a lot of the money they made from gullible GOP donors was paid out to MAGA influencers to be their cheerleaders for their scam. While the neocons like Mark Levin and Josh Hammer and Ben Shapiro spent the last few weeks telling you that Tucker Carlson was the biggest problem in American politics, the GOP got wiped out in Virginia and Pennsylvania and New Jersey by the rigged voting machines.
Mississippi,
That's
Georgia, Ohio.
not an accident. That is by design. None of these people care about fair elections because none of these people care about America. We must have in-person voting on paper ballots conducted on one single day and hand counted. Everything else is a scam. And that's the absolute truth.
Now, again, this is what she's talking about. Here's Peter Berniger, and he gets into the numbers and shows you the graphs. And this is everything we've seen before, folks. This is everything we've seen before. And I'd say the only hope we have right now from the Trump administration to do something is Harmeet Dillon and maybe Ed Martin. I'm not sure if this is really where Ed Martin is going to get involved. But this is something Harmeet Dillon is really pushing. Outside of that, I don't see anybody in the administration. Now, I will say Trump alluded to some semblance of an idea that this went on yesterday and today when he was speaking and talking about mail-in voting and early voting and how they rig elections. So he kind of alluded to that, but he didn't directly apply it to what happened on Tuesday, but he kind of alluded to that being a problem, and now it's part of his sales pitch to end the filibuster. But okay, so it's the exact same stuff we saw in 2020. It's the exact same issues we've had forever. Mail-in ballots, early voting, no voter ID, the line graphs flipping in the middle of the race and just totally changing the results from one to the next. From one person winning and then they just flip and the other person wins instead. All of this happened Tuesday night. And how many of the people did you hear from Conservative Inc. calling this out? How many of the people that you saw blaming Carlson and everybody else that we covered and Sliwa, how many of them mentioned any of this? How many of them mentioned early voting, mail-in voting, voter ID, the votes flipping in the middle of the night? How many of them mentioned that? They spent all their time, all their energy screaming and shouting, blaming everybody else. How many of them mentioned that? How many of them talked voter integrity? Now, I don't really get into the business of, say, the drama of character defense. I get into truth defense. So I'm not here to defend Scott Presler's character. I've met Scott. I think he's a nice guy. As far as the accusations against him, he can stand up for himself. I'm just here to defend the truth. And you know who did call out the rigged voting? You know who did call out all the problems on Tuesday? Scott Presler did. Scott Presler actually did. That's just the truth. And I don't remember Scott Presler using his platform to attack Curtis Sliwa. I don't remember Scott Presler using his platform to attack other names in the right wing that he doesn't like, or I don't know if he likes them or not, but that other people don't like. So again, these other accusations that Emerald kind of alluded to there, I'm not in that business. He can defend himself. He's a big boy. I'm here to defend the truth. And of all the people that weighed into these races, of all the people that got really loud after the results and blamed everybody else, I didn't see any single one of them talk about mail-in voting, voter ID, the votes flipping in the middle of the night, the bomb threats, the machine issues. Didn't see them. Instead, they were screaming and shouting at the people on the right that they want to remove from the party movement. And that's why we lose. And I think aside from that angle of the coverage here, from that analysis of just who's reporting what, look at the general takeaway here. Again, folks, to me, this is just a sign. It's just another symptom that whatever we had, whatever magic we had, whatever magical movement MAGA was, it's dead. It's over. It's gone. If MAGA was still alive and well, And if we still had that magic touch, then all these shenanigans that happened Tuesday night that you just saw Emerald Robinson talk about, some of them, we would be united. We would be making these a huge case. We would be bringing these to President Trump. We'd be bringing these to the White House. We'd be forcing this into the conversation, into the media. We'd be maybe even organizing protests against it. And none of it's happening. None of it. It's because people they're done. They're out. They're disenfranchised. They're let down. It's over. The magic it's gone. So, all right. We're getting close to the end of the show here. I got a couple of geopolitical things to cover. I got a couple other controversial things maybe to cover. Not sure if I want to go there. I think we'll have to hold off the healthcare news. Way too much on the healthcare front to try to get it in before the end of the show. So we'll probably hold that off. So let me just start going through what we got left on the desk. I got a couple geopolitical things we can get into first. By the way, speaking of hot girls for Cuomo, that was supposedly started by Emily Austin, and I guess she's flying back from Israel. She went to Israel after she started Hot Girls for Cuomo. She immediately went to Israel, so I guess she's coming back. So she did this funny skit. And I got a good laugh out of this. I think it's unintentionally ironic. I'm not even sure if the irony is realized here, but nonetheless, it's pretty funny. So I figured I'd share it with you here today.
Sorry. Ellie.
Jennifer.
God.
I can't believe this is where we meet.
You know us Jews. If history has taught us anything,
It's knowing when it's time to leave.
Yeah, God knows. I tried to stay as long as I could, but
One morning you wake up and you realize
it's not the same country you grew up in. Exactly.
Yeah, it's no longer safe for us to live here.
You mean there?
Where?
New York.
Wait a second. You're telling me you're coming to Israel now? Are you crazy?
Wait, you're moving to New York? Now? Are you crazy? Did you see who just won the election?
At least you still have elections.
Trust me, it's just not safe for Jews anymore.
You literally came to the most dangerous place for Jews on the planet. My flight.
My taxi, yeah.
Okay, enjoy Israel. It's hell.
Enjoy New York. It's a nightmare. Good luck.
Am Israel Chai.
Am Israel Chai. What a klutz.
Ese habla.
That's funny. That's funny for multiple reasons. For the reasons intended, and then I think for reasons maybe not so much realized. But either way, that's pretty funny stuff right there. All right, here's the serious stuff. Hey, you're hearing plenty about Nigeria. Why is nobody talking about Sudan? UAE-backed RSF accepts truce proposal to pause Sudan genocide. It seems to be universally accepted that there's been a genocide going on in Sudan. Nobody's talking about that. The final battle of the Darfur genocide that began in 2003. Again, where are the people talking about it? It's Sudan's genocide. Only those who pay survive. Many have died in the past week. Many more. In fact, more people are dying in Sudan than they are in Gaza, according to some reports. And Nigeria. So more people are dying in Sudan, and more people are dying in Sudan than Gaza. More people are dying in Sudan than Nigeria. Why is nobody talking about it? Of all of those accounts that love now to talk about Nigeria and start pointing fingers and the whole silent propaganda campaign. It's funny, you guys are awfully silent on Sudan. Why is that? I guess that makes you guys the frauds, huh? I guess that makes you guys the frauds. Boy, oh boy. How controversial do we want to get before we sign off today? Let's go to this. Let's go to James Fishback. And boy, this guy's making noise. He's the CEO of Invest Arizona. Excuse me. Invest Azoria. Make that correction here. CEO of Invest Azoria, James Fishback. Now, he apparently wants to run for the governor of Florida. And you've got Byron Donalds, who's already announced he's running. And Byron is a pretty popular, you might even say conservative Republican establishment type. But I like Brian. Byron, rather, but I'll get into that in a second. So Fishback, though, how long is this video? 2 minutes. Listen to what he says here. So Randy Fine, first of all, it's disgusting that we are forced to deal with Randy Fine. It's disgusting that Republicans are forced to accept Randy Fine in the party. He's a despicable human being. He's a pro-death, blood-drenched warmonger. He is absolute slime and filth. And Trump endorses him. It's disgusting that conservatives have to deal with Randy Fine. It's disgusting that Randy Fine is a gold standard Republican that gets backing from the establishment. Somebody that celebrates war and death of children. Literally Randy Fine. And now he's running around threatening Americans. This disgusting tub of lard, Randy Fine. And apparently he's now calling James Fishback and threatening him. Here's James' testimony.
Yesterday, Randy Fine called me. He berated me for 42 minutes about the Florida governor's race, telling me that if I entered that race, there would be real problems for me in the future, telling me that it wouldn't be nice to Byron Donalds if I ran against him, as if we don't have elections in this country. Randy, if Byron is such a good candidate, he'll trounce me. But the truth is, Republicans are the ones who got trounced this week. Republicans got trounced because of people like you and Byron Donalds. People like you and Byron Donalds, who all you get done is write strongly worded letters, go on CNN and Fox News and whine, and then come back to your districts and act like you got something done for Americans. It's an absolute joke. The only person who's working in Washington, D.C. goes by the name of Donald J. Trump. And the do-nothing congressional Republicans, many of whom are good people. But the truth of the matter is that if Elon Musk emailed you guys and asked you what you got done this week, you would say absolutely nothing. Because you know what? Going on TV, whining on podcasts, and writing tweets does not count. That does not count as getting something done for hardworking.
All right, for the sake of time, I want to just cut that clip short. But by the way, that's the future of conservatives in politics right there. Everything he just said. Now, I don't understand what Randy Fine's issue is. I can only guess that Randy Fine looks at James and says he's not a good ally for Israel, and that's all that matters to Randy Fine. So he wants to go after James. That's my guess that this is all going on. Now, I like Byron Donalds. Now, Fishback doubles down. He says, does the candidate for Florida governor ever talk about Florida? And he's in this interview on CNN talking about issues all around the world. Just a nonstop slop fest with talking points from Conservative Inc. All of a sudden, I'm a big fan of James Fishback for governor of Florida. Now, I don't live in Florida. I like Byron Donalds. I think Byron Donalds is one of the good guys in Congress. Now, Byron is, he's got the AIPAC money too. He takes the Israeli lobby money too. So that's, the one thing I'd say that people will hold against Byron as he advances his political career. But I still like Byron. I think he's good on almost every other issue. I'd still give him a high approval rating. That's the one issue he's bad at. Now, for some people, they have zero tolerance with that issue, and that might become the circumstances in 2026 that it's a zero tolerance issue. But most people aren't zero tolerance with it yet. They'll still vote for a Byron Donalds, even if you take the AIPAC money. But I think by 2028, for sure, no. Any association with Israel, you'll be unelectable. Maybe 2026. So, but now Fishback is pushing back on this, and things are getting interesting. And Fishback is now reporting, as of today, that Donalds has agreed to a debate with him. He's agreed to a debate. And I'm not surprised. I think that's the type of man and that's the type of character Byron Donalds has as a politician. This is the debate. This could be the debate, folks, that shows you the future of Republican politics. I'm looking forward to this. I hope it happens. I hope it happens soon. Again, Fishback said that there was an agreement made. He did on X about a couple hours ago. I don't have it in front of me. This will be the debate. Now Donald's is still like, younger brand conservative, probably a lot more connected to where the heart and the mind of conservatives are at. Still has the Israeli lobby issue that he's not going to be able to separate himself from. So that's going to happen. It's most certainly going to come up. But this is the future of right-wing politics right here, is what I believe. What you get from a Fishback Donald's debate, that's the future of right-wing politics. That's the future. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a great debate. And now it's going to be a pressure test of, okay, how much impact does the Israel issue and the Israel lobby money issue have today on elections? Now, we already know where that's at on the left. We already know where that's at on the left with Mamdani, and you already know it had a bit of an overlap with the right, that people that voted for Mamdani, young guys that might otherwise be conservative, but they voted for Mamdani just strictly on the Israel issue. So this, to me, though, will be the most organic pressure test of how tolerant are we in 2025 going into 2026? How tolerant are conservatives and Republican voters going to be of the Israeli lobby money? Are we going to reach the critical mass of 0% tolerance? Is it going to be kind of a 50-50 split? Is it still going to be, no, people like Israel, they'll still vote for you, or they prefer it? I'd say right now you're close to a 50-50 split. I'm not even going to say I'm convinced on either side of it. I just say it's close to a 50-50 split. I could see it going either way. I could see it not being zero tolerance or not being the be-all, end-all issue of 2026. I would say by 2028, it will be zero tolerance, be-all, end-all. 2026, it might still be 50-50. We'll see. But that's going to be one debate and one race to watch to see a pressure test of just where it's at. Just where it's at. Now, here's Megyn Kelly getting into how Republicans like losing. And I don't agree with everything she says here, but directionally, the pass that she's making to her audience here is a completion. And so I'll kind of go into the weeds of the things that I think she might be a little off on. But generally speaking, I think Megyn Kelly is right. And
the Republican,
I think Republican voters are starting to realize that this is the case.
The Republican Party needs to get its shit together. ASAP. I'm really glad we spent the past couple of weeks, as Sean Davis of The Federalist put it, policing some young person's group chat, what a podcast host said, and what the head of a think tank over at Heritage had to say. I'm really glad that the Republicans devoted so much time to that. That was a great move. Terrific move.
Now, I want to explain why this is. I want you to understand why this is. And I shouldn't even go too deep into this, but if you listen to the show every day, you already know some of the decisions I made that was like, yeah, I'm separating myself totally from the party politics. I'm separating myself totally from everything DC. And it turns out it was the right decision, because now I see that the people that have kind of been ingratiated lately are getting a lot of pushback for deciding to take the offers. But I'm going to explain why. It's all about access, folks. It's all about access. Let me reframe what she's saying here. Why is it that people on the right are willing to go after broadcasters, podcast hosts, commentators? Why is it that people on the right are willing to go after political pundits and try to attack and smear and character assassinate and destroy them, but they won't go after the actual members of the party? They won't go after the actual elected officials. They won't go after the actual political candidates or representatives in office. Why is that? It's because of access, folks. They're scared. They don't want to go after elected Republicans. They don't want to go after the actual party. They're scared. They need their access. They want to remain friends with them. They want to maintain their access. They want to maintain their access to Fox News. They want to maintain their access to the mainstream conservative shows. They want to maintain their access to the Pentagon, the White House, whatever it is. So they'll never attack an elected Republican. And if they do, they'll be very soft, and they'll make sure it's a nice, comfortable landing zone, and there's enough of a buffer around them to try to get away with it and not make too much noise, that nothing gets disturbed in their precious little political world. That's what it is. There's no cost in going after Tucker Carlson. Now, well, I should say they don't realize there's a cost. They don't realize there's a cost, but there's no Washington, D.C. political establishment world cost. The cost is from the grassroots. The cost is from the consumers. They may or may not realize that. I don't know. But for this conversation, there's no cost. It doesn't cost them anything as far as their bottom line. They're not going to lose access. They're not going to lose sponsors. They're not going to lose money. They're not going to lose support from the establishment. So it's no cost to go after Tucker Carlson or any of these people. Oh, but you go after Mike Johnson. Oh, you go after John Thune. Oh, you dare say something negative about Trump. Oh, now you're scared. They're too scared to do it. They won't do it. But going after this guy that talks over here, this talk show host, that's easy. That doesn't cost me anything. So I'll do that all day long. That's what she's talking about here. That's how I phrase it to you.
Way to stick together to really shine a light on what matters. The Republicans like to lose. They enjoy losing. They enjoy when they are embattled and in a losing position and complaining. They love it. They do it really well. Less good at winning, especially when Donald Trump is not there to get them over the line.
Now, I'll talk about the Donald Trump thing that she brings up here. But as far as Republicans like losing, I think that she's right. And I think that she's right for two reasons. One, Republicans like losing because it's easier to fundraise. It's easier to fundraise when Democrats are in power and liberals are doing stupid things. It's easier for the Republicans to fundraise. So they like losing. They don't like having the control of power because then they can fundraise off of what the Democrats are doing. And then two, they don't like being in power because they don't like being responsible. They don't like being responsible for decisions. They don't like the pressure that comes along with being in power. They don't like taking blame for when things go wrong. So they like to lose. Megyn Kelly is right. Republicans like to lose. They would rather be in a position of losing than of leadership.
The Republican Party is not strong. Donald Trump is strong. Republicans don't know how to win. They don't know who to run. They don't know what to do when daddy's not there to fly them across the finish line. And that's just been so obvious. Meanwhile, Trump is all over the Middle East while people's.
Now, let me explain the Trump dynamic here. And that'll be enough from Megyn Kelly. And I would say that I don't disagree with what she's saying. You know, Trump not being on the ballot obviously hurt them big time. But why? Why is it? Well, let's recall what Trump went through in 2015 and 2016. Let's recall. Do you remember? Were you there? Who was attacking Trump the most in 2015 and 2016? It was the Republicans. It was the Republicans. It was the big conservatives in the media. They were the ones attacking Trump. They were trying to character assassinate him. They were trying to smear him. They were doing everything. It was the right wing. It was the Republicans that were doing everything to try to destroy Donald Trump and keep him from running for office. But Donald Trump is a fighter. Donald Trump is a fighter and a big personality, and he has his own money, and he's stubborn, and he's prideful. And so he took it. He charged through it, and he won. But guess what? Most people, they're not like that. Most people that are genuine and care about America and then want to win and want to change things and want to help and save the country, and then they get the attacks from Republicans, like a Curtis Sliwa had to go through recently, or we'll see many others, or now a Marjorie Taylor Greene, or now a Thomas Massie, or now a Rand Paul. They've done it to Ron Paul. They've done it to Pat Buchanan. When a true, genuine American patriot on the right decides to run for office and try to win, it's the Republicans that try to destroy you. It's the Republicans that try to ruin your life, destroy your reputation. So you know what happens? Most people say, I'm out. I'm not running as a Republican. I'm not getting involved in Republican Party politics. These people are nasty. They stab you in the back. They stab you in the front. They lie about you. They try to control everything. They try to police you. I'm out. I'm done. That's what they tried to do to Trump. But he beat him. We beat him. But so this is why. This is why. Let's see what happens. But this is why it's so hard to get good candidates to run as Republican. This is why it's so hard to get cool, charismatic, popular, well-spoken, well-dressed. This is why it's so hard to get people like that to run as a Republican. Because the Republicans will destroy you. They're worse than Democrats. Democrats will let anybody on the stage. Radical communist, transgender, hell, terrorist sympathizer. I mean, literally want to kill your political opposition. Oh, yeah. The Democrats will give you a platform. Absolutely. And you get through to the elections, they'll fund you. They'll support you no matter what. But you're a Republican. You come in there and you're independent and you actually have true beliefs and you're principled and want to actually save the country, the Republicans will destroy you. And they'll get all their henchmen in the media that just live for the access, live for the clout, live for the prestige because it makes them feel cool because they've never been cool in their life. They've always been losers. So now the political world is the only place where they've ever felt accepted. They've ever felt like they have any influence at all. And they're so desperate. They're so scared to lose it. So no real true conservative American patriot will ever run for politics as a Republican, and this is why. And the few that do and decide they're going to take the heat and take the attacks, very few can make it through. Donald Trump just happens to be one of them. And now your next tests are going to be Marjorie Taylor Greene, are going to be Thomas Massie, maybe a Tucker Carlson, maybe someone else of that ilk. And you will watch them just like they did with Curtis Sliwa. They will try to destroy you. And then they will try to ruin your life when all you did was proudly run as an American conservative. When all you did was try to be a God-fearing, principled, Christian, conservative, American patriot. But because you weren't controlled by the Republican Party, because you weren't controlled by their big donor class, they will destroy you, your reputation, and your life. And then they're surprised by why nobody wants to run as a Republican. And then that surprises them. Yeah, don't be so surprised. Don't be so surprised. So there you go. There you go, and there you have it for today's edition of the Owen Report. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I want to thank our sponsors, My Patriot Supply, Allegiance Gold, and Blackout Coffee for sponsoring today's show. We'll take a 21-hour break. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel. God bless. Godspeed.